What's good, y'all? Welcome to the John Cat Show, episode number 55. Being joined by a very special guest today, Miss Aggie Rican. Thank you for coming on the show.
Hi, thanks for having me on your show. It's always fun.
Yeah, I was say you have the distinct honor of being the first reappearing recurring guest.
I feel so special. I feel kind of like Maud Adams. She was the only woman to play Bond girl twice.
I should have some sort of crown for you. It's a crowning achievement, and the least I could do. Honestly, you guys have been more than generous enough with me. Aggie, by the way, speaking of, is over at KLRN Radio. Go to klrnradio.com. She's got He Said, She Said, and Cocktail Lounge, and those guys are really great over there and a lot of fun. And I've been honored enough to join on a couple of those here and there. So
Yeah, keep your schedule open because I might need you.
I'm always down. I'm always down for it. I feel like you know, it's funny because I have such a light schedule, but then whenever we try to link one up, I'm always like, yeah, I actually have something going on that day, and it's so rare for me.
It's like the one day.
Yeah, the one day of the month I have plans. And yes, Aggie Rican on Twitter as well for a lot of entertaining content, covering a lot of different areas of the spectrum, which is nice. It's nice when people have varying contents on there. They're not just in one mode.
Yeah, it's more fun when people are more eclectic in their posting. Varying your posts actually makes you a more interesting follow. So
Absolutely. If you were to look at mine today, you would think it was all over the. I actually I wasn't even going to talk about it because it just fried my brain whenever I get into these long-winded kind of debates online. It was a very interesting one that ties on to something I rant about all the time. So I think I do want to get into that. But happy Memorial Day to anybody listening. This actually won't be published on Memorial Day, but today is Memorial Day. So when you're hearing this, happy belated Memorial Day.
many thanks to everyone who gave their lives for the benefit of our freedom.
Yeah, it's unreal to think about. Like, if you really do think about it, we really owe those people everything.
We do.
And I can't even imagine, as someone who obviously never came close to serving in anything, I just can't imagine, being in combat. I was just talking about this with someone the other day. Imagine actually going through that, watching your friends die, actually having to kill people. And I know Memorial Day, people always say, oh, don't confuse it with Veterans Day. It's for the people that actually perish. Like, I get it. But just as a side thought here, just about what it actually takes to serve in that way.
It takes a very special individual because what they're doing is literally giving up their life for their country. Regardless, you've signed over your life. You've made a contract with this country that you will give them everything in defense of it, and it does. It takes a very, very special quality that not everybody has.
Well,
That's
a lot
not
of
to,
qualities.
That's not to say that people don't have that same quality and serve in other areas, but it's daunting when you are called to go in defense of the country and you go to a foreign place and you have the responsibility to take a life, in that name. So it does take quite a bit.
Yeah, I think it again because I go, I don't know. You always, people. I think a lot of people are capable of stuff they don't think they're capable of, right? So when it comes down to it, yeah, are you gonna? We were having that debate with Polita Bunny online a month or two ago because she was saying she wouldn't eat certain things, and we're going, listen, if your body was dying, and it was between dying and eating this gross thing that you don't like, I'm pretty sure you would eat that gross thing rather than just lay there and die. But that's a poor
everybody
analogy,
has
perhaps.
that Rubicon.
What's that?
Everybody has that Rubicon. I mean, when I was in college, our teacher, who was a nutritional anthropologist, she told us, the International Food Festival was going on, and she said, you have to try 5 foods that you've never tried before. And the foods that were there were not exactly, it's not something that I would have, but it was for a grade.
Yeah.
So that incentivized you. in a way. And yes, you're right. If you are starving, you'll eat it.
Probably tastes like a Big Mac if you were starving to death, you know? But yeah, I imagine those guys, it takes a lot of quality because it's the truest form of selflessness, right?
Mhm.
And then also, yeah, just the bravery and the courage aspect and the and I know a lot of people don't necessarily get into it thinking that they're gonna have to be in those moments, but I guess you always know that it's an option.
Yes. And the past 22 years have made it crystal clear that that option is very much on the table.
Yeah, actually, it's funny. I was just thinking about recently. I had two roommates in a row when I was younger join up. When I go like, what does that say about me? That they're like, let me get the fuck out of here and join the Marines. But yeah, my college roommate joined the Marines maybe about a year and a half before 9/11. So he
Wow.
immediately after that was sent over to, I want to say he was in yeah, he did. He went immediately to Afghanistan. And then my other roommate joined after 9/11 within a year of it, knowing full well. And he joined the army, went right over to Iraq.
I had my brother-in-law was a combat medic, and he jumped in with the 173rd into Iraq. And it was for him the culmination of everything that he had been getting ready for. And, he has stories. He served 4 tours, I
Mm.
believe, one in Iraq, two in Afghanistan, and one in Kuwait. And his job in Afghanistan was actually setting up clinics not for our soldiers, but for the Afghanis. And he would see so many atrocious things that the Taliban was doing to their own people.
Yeah.
And I mean, he when he came back, I think he appreciated what he fought for a lot more. For him, it became a very tangible thing. The freedom became extremely tangible after witnessing the freedoms that people didn't have, overseas. And even in a place like Kuwait, where, Kuwait is technically a wealthy country.
Yeah.
People don't have the same freedoms that we do here.
Mm-mm.
And he witnessed them, firsthand. And so when he came back after his last tour, he was like, it amazes him to this day to see people spit on that because they just do not like, the US, even being Americans, we're like, oh, we hate this country, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, you actually have no idea how good you
Yeah.
really have it here.
Yeah, and that's the thing because we were going to talk about patriotism, and that's such a perfect example because I was thinking about this today in regards to patriotism, how apolitical it really should be.
Yes.
And people get so caught up in, well, it's not an unconditional love of country, right? It's a conditional love of country. It's I'm only going to love my country if these particular people are in office or if we vote for these bills or whatever stupid shit they're
Right.
obsessing about. And it's like, no, you have an unconditional love of country. Patriotism is its own thing. It's not about political party lines or any of that type of shit. And yeah, I can't imagine being someone like you said it was your uncle, cousin,
No, it's my brother-in-law.
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 Sorry. I can't imagine being someone like your brother-in-law that just got to throw it into just extreme focus like, "Oh, this is what it's really all about." But strips it down to a real base level for you, I'm sure really fast.
Oh yes, I have my late brother-in-law. He passed away. It will be 10 years this September, and I remember this. He was a very patriotic man. I mean, if he could bleed red, white, and blue at the same time, he would have. I mean, he was really into it, and he remembers walking. I want to say he was at Fort Sam over in San Antonio, and he was walking somewhere and he overheard somebody complaining about the current administration and all that stuff. And he was in uniform. So it wasn't like the guy didn't know my brother-in-law was in the military. And he's just complaining and called him a stooge, called my brother-in-law a stooge. And my brother-in-law is just standing there, just just letting him rant on, until he just was done. And he's like, you know, one of the great things about this country, you have the freedom to leave it. And the guy was like, well, I don't want to leave it. I was like, and my brother-in-law was like, but you're complaining all about it. Why would you want to stay in this
Yeah.
hellhole? you know? And he just started going on and on and on to the point where people started gathering around just to listen to what my brother-in-law was saying. And I'm standing there going, please let this be over soon. I just wanted to get home. But, he did. He explained, you know, you have to be very careful when you say, I don't like this about my country. I don't like this. This country needs to, change and all that stuff. Is that you have the freedom to leave it because there are already countries that have changed the way you want this country to change. So
Right.
you can go to
Exactly.
one of those.
Exactly. Well, and
Just
also,
fine.
there's a big distinction too between, even just today, I was rattling off all the shit I think needs to change with our government, for example, right?
Right.
But there are things about our system and our society that are clearly broken. And I think that's a totally different issue. You'll never hear me utter the words, nor have I ever said, I hate this country, or I hate this. I don't even say I hate this thing about our country. I'll say I hate this thing about our society or our government. It'll be a
Yeah.
specific
It'll be very specific.
aspect because to me that has nothing to do with the overall big picture of what we have here and this amazing wonderful experiment we managed to pull off. It's like, yeah, the current admin and the way things are operating is really messed up, and there's a lot of things I would change about that. It has nothing to do with the country itself.
You make a very, very good point. It isn't the country. It's the way the government is being run and the current administration, whichever administration it may be, and not every administration will be perfect. Some people will like one, some people will like the other. It's only to be expected. But you're right. It is this particular form of government is very novel. Is very unusual, and it is experimental. It's still going on. And I remember I wrote a thread on Twitter a few years ago about how I came to this country. And we moved here the summer of 1976, and everything was red, white, and blue. I mean, everything.
Yeah.
Because it was the bicentennial. Well, I'm coming from Puerto Rico. I have no idea what the bicentennial is.
Right.
And I finally asked my dad, why is everything so pretty? Why is it all red and white and blue? And he gave us the sanitized version of the Revolutionary War, and
You're like,
why it was so important and why they were fighting to become independent of England. And one of the things that I learned later on was this Constitution was the second try, not the first try. The first try actually failed, and everybody forgets that part. It did fail. And they learned from it and they took that knowledge from the mistakes that they made and implemented our Constitution, which has worked really, really well. And yes, there are some things in there that the whole 17th Amendment thing drives me nuts.
Yeah, I mean, there's huge aspects of the system that have gotten away from the original design. That's for sure.
Yes.
And even the shit I was ranting about today, there's nothing, the fact that we have a two-party system, I always say, is stupid. And it really, it detracts from our ability to kind of represent the spirit of the design, where we're just going, you're going to be in this tribe or that tribe, and everyone's beholden to this behemoth money apparatus if they even want a chance of becoming, a senator or something, much less.
Yes, it's true. And I can see it that this is a two-party system. But having lived in a country where there are 28 parties, I see the complete opposite. I've seen it up close and personal to where nothing would get done. And then I started thinking, nothing getting done is not a bad thing.
Well, nothing gets done now. Nothing gets done now. It really has become a uniparty, to be honest.
Yeah, that's the other side of that particular two-party pendulum.
Yeah.
That they start,
well, here's the
cooperating
thing, though,
with each other to keep that power going.
Yeah, but because we have a republic, that to me is more reason why we should not have the two-party deal, because those elected officials in Washington, they're representing our constituents back here in our state, right? So they shouldn't be part of some club that they're going to always vote aligned with, or they'll be ostracized by them, and they're beholden to this club instead of beholden to constituents. If this guy wasn't part of a party, or he's an independent, or he's part of a more obscure party and there's 50 parties, then he's really only going to be worried about the constituents back home, because he's like, I'm not part of some team that I just have to vote unanimously with every time, no matter what my personal thoughts are.
It always drives me crazy when a representative or a senator, they get voted into this one party from this one party, Party A. Everybody forgets they're actually beholden to the people who voted him or her into that position. And their job is to do what the people tell him or her to do. And one of the best examples that I can think of is one of our representatives here in the state of Texas, Henry Cuellar. Henry Cuellar is a Democrat, and it has come to the attention of a lot of people that he is not very well liked in the Democratic Party. The reason being is that his district feels the brunt out of all of the mass immigration that is taking place in the state of Texas. And he answers to the ranchers, to the farmers, to the people that live in that district who don't like it.
Right.
So he is taking it upon himself to ask the administration to do something to help stop it.
Yeah.
Well, the administration doesn't like that. So he has become the black sheep of the Democrats here in Texas. Yeah. And yet all he's doing is what his the people he represents are asking him to do. So
yeah, it reminds me of like Joe Manchin with the gun issues and everything else. Yeah, his constituents are in West Virginia, right? Or he's representing. That's what they want. That's why they sent him there. They sent him there to uphold. And now you're saying, well, that's what I'm saying. If he didn't have a stronger constitution, not the thing for our country, but his internal fortitude.
Little C constitution.
If he didn't have a stronger little C constitution, he would go, well, I don't want to be ostracized and ripped in the media by these people every day. Like, I'll just go along with them so that they're leave me alone. And I think that's what 90% of these people do, even when they know in their gut, like, I really believe this thing, and I know my people back home do, but I don't want to be the pariah. And that's the worst. Like, everybody's being bullied into believing the same thing. And that is
actually, those are the words that Mr. Cuellar actually used. The administration was bullying him. The administration, when he asked for help to stem the tide of illegal immigrants coming through his district, the administration answered by raiding his documents. They raided his office, they raided his home, and took his laptop, took documents, took all sorts of files and everything. The FBI came and raided. And a lot of people didn't know that's what happened. And I was like, when I saw, I said, oh, okay, I see what's going on. If you actually ask for help and you go against what the administration wants done, they're going to try and scare you. Well, he turned everything over. He said, I have nothing to hide, and I'm still going to ask for help. And he showed that he could not be cowed. So what happens? Like maybe 5 days later, all his documents and his laptop come back, and he went out and bought a new laptop because he couldn't trust it.
I wouldn't keep that thing either, man.
No. So, but this is what politics has become, and I'm not talking just one side. I'm saying both sides can get ruthless.
It's become the most tribalistic, monolithic. Everything about that person is bad. I will not agree with them no matter what, because I hate them and they want to destroy our country. It's a good segue into what I was going to bring up, because I always talk about how musicians and my favorite actors and athletes and how I block that shit out. I don't want to hear.
I don't want to hear it either.
I don't want to hear it. I block it out. Anyone knows me knows how much I love music. I tweet music videos all day long. I assume 90% of those artists are liberals. I don't give a fuck. That's what I always say. Just don't hit me over the head with it. But so I brought this up in the last pod too, because it was bothering me, and there was a development today that was very interesting. So anyone knows me knows I'm a huge Dave Matthews Band fan. Mm-hmm. As big as any. I tweet their stuff all the time. I've counted down their top 20 on this pod, but I never actually call them my favorite. They might as well just be my favorite. I've seen them live 10 times more than any other band. And
Dang.
and because they come 2 nights in a row to Florida since I've been down here. And I used to get free tickets to the venue and so I used to just go twice a year every year for like a decade. So I got like 20 shows in just doing that. But
just doing that, yeah.
So their bass player is Stefan Lessard. He's like 40, late 40s, 48, something like that. And, look, I realize Dave and all these guys are libs. You know what I mean? Dave himself pretty much keeps quiet about it. But I've been following Stefan, the bass player, on Twitter for a while now. And I'll notice, it's one thing here's the thing. This is going to be such a fucking long-winded rant because my brain's so tired of even thinking.
But we love them. We love those, rants.
I want you to weigh
great.
in on this. I just have to get out the full context, and then I want to get your thoughts on all this. Okay. So he's always, and I said something to him like a month ago because of this, because he tweets and retweets not just about issues and, general issues and stuff, but he's retweeting like the Brooklyn Dad type accounts, those dudes, and the memes, and it's the divisive shit. And then if people troll him or people that disagree with him say something nasty and they have 12 followers, he'll get into like a debate with that person and he'll hit him with like a Trump's going to prison meme or something, right? All right, here's why it fucking kills me. You're Stefan motherfucking Lessard, my man. You've been the bass player for one of the coolest bands in history since the early 90s. People love your... Why are you arguing with trolls on Twitter about Trump and Hillary and who's going to fucking prison? Are you kidding me? So let me read. I just want to read my original comment to him today because I said something similar to him a while ago. This is actually getting a lot of replies. He quote tweeted me twice. I got into a whole conversation with him about it. So That's why it's interesting. And then somebody messaged me like, dude, you realize you're having a conversation with Stefan Lessard? I'm like, I know. But see, here's the thing. He's a nice guy. I think he has a good heart. He engages with people. I think like a lot of people in his position, he is a good-hearted, and he would have been kind of like a classical Dem a decade or so ago. And now he's just been beaten over the head with that half the country is evil. And he really thinks half the country's evil. And I don't blame him for thinking that. That's why it kills me. But then also, it's like, you're way too cool for this shit, dude. Like, leave that to us. And people are like, dude, you just want him to shut up and play. Like, you sound like one of those people. It's like, he's touched the lives of so many people through his art. And a lot of those people are righties or nothing at all. They don't care or want to hear about politics. They may be libertarian,
people who
whatever.
Don't care about politics, yeah.
Yeah, they don't want to come to the next show watching you play thinking about your Hillary Clinton tweets. And I'm not saying you're not allowed to have a viewpoint. Everyone should say and do whatever they want to do. I just wish they would see how much deeper and more beneficial the music itself is and how that benefits society and humanity way more than some stupid meme or argument. It just has such a counterproductive effect when you do that. It's such a long rant. I didn't even read his original tweet. All I saw was that he tweeted a meme of Hillary laughing, holding up a sign saying, lock him up with Trump's face. And I'm like, dude, like, isn't that beneath you? So I said, bro, here's the thing. I'm such a presumptuous dickhead that I would even do this. Cause I was cringing at myself and someone said like, no, like you're actually being like really respectful. Like he replied to me thoughtfully. I was like, I'm going to delete it all because who am I to even tell this guy anything anyway? You know what I mean? I said, bro, I'm nobody to advise anyone on how they should live their life, but you do know you play bass for Dave motherfucking Matthews Band, yeah? Why are we arguing with political internet trolls? I just don't get the vibes. Then this other guy replied. He actually quotes you and replied to the other guy. This dude goes, nor do you have to get the vibes. It's like saying he should only care about what you care about. It doesn't make sense. I said, what doesn't make sense is a music legend whose art has touched the lives of people from all spectrums arguing online with trolls about silly bullshit. His music has real meaning for people, and it does more good than any of that divisiveness. It's basically what I said to you. I said, it's a total opposite energy. So Stefan quoted it, and he said, this was actually thoughtful. You know what? It was a fair response, because he said, it's a release. Some legends sniff cocaine, drink, womanize, shoot heroin, also opposite energy. Why?
I guess it's better.
He said, because we all need escapes. Every once in a while, I like to pick fun of right-wing trolls who come at me speaking my mind. especially now that Elon promotes right-wing BS. Like, they're so caught up with, like, Elon's Hitler and all these people. Anyway, that was the gist of it. I then replied to that, and he replied a couple more times. What did I say to that? I said, I really do appreciate your response. I'm a big fan. I said, opposite energy, meaning your music promotes love and joy. It brings people together. Arguing about politics drives people apart. I said, believe it or not, some of your biggest fans are, quote, right-wing. Much love. And then I got into 10 side conversations with people who were coming at me, disagreeing with me.
But,
I'm done. You talk.
But you made a really good point, and I will bring in Michael Jordan, because he's the one that actually I look to as a really good peer for this kind of stuff. I mean, the man has an empire, and he does a lot of good with it. And, he's always been a very gracious person. But one of the things that he said has always stuck with me. Well, there's two things that he said, but one actually applies to this. He was asked why he is not more political, why he doesn't put out his politics more often. You know what he said? Because Republicans buy shoes too.
Yeah.
And that, in essence, not only does he tell me where he leans, but it also tells me that he is considerate about the other side.
Of course. No, he gets
and
it.
That's why, whenever I see a musician, an entertainer, a sports figure putting forth their opinion, it's fine, but it's the delivery of the opinion and who they're talking to that I weigh. That's 100%. Where the weight is.
Yeah, and I kept saying to these people, I said, there's a difference between a thoughtful, humanistic issue, because they're going, if you know his music, you know that they care about war and oppression and racism. I said, who the fuck wants war and oppression and racism? I care too. Like, those are, if he was tweeting about ending war and oppression, and I'd be like, okay, it's still, let's lock him up and fucking Lindsey Graham this and Ted Cruz that and Brooklyn. It's like, bro, that's political noise that you've been manipulated to focus on. Those are not real issues. Your songs are not about Hillary Clinton. If you have a song about ending world hunger, great. Has nothing to do with fucking Congress and who anyone's voting for. Like, there's a huge distinction there.
Big time.
Jordan understood how many lives he was touching through his enterprise and his art. He was really an artist, right? And he understood that people loved, he understood how meaningful he was to people's lives. So yes, he wasn't going to alienate. People have been sitting home, myself included, listening to Dave Matthews for 20 fucking years. Do you really want to alienate me? And now when I listen to your shit, I'm thinking about this stupid thing you tweeted. And yeah, I get it. I could block you. I like to follow you. I like your musical takes. Feel free to say whatever. People are, who are you to tell him? I'm nobody to tell anybody. But I hope he appreciated the perspective. I feel like he did. I bet he lays down tonight and goes, that John Katz guy was really fucking onto something.
because you're right. And this is not to take away, you can't post your opinion on social media. That's not what this is about. This is the delivery of your opinion on social media. This is engagement of your opinion on social media. And you have people who do engage and are very open about their opinions. One of my favorites is, I've been a fan of his for so long, Corin Nimick. I love him.
Who is that? I don't even know who that is.
He's not a musician. He's an actor.
Okay.
And
what's he? Anything I would know?
I don't know if you remember a TV show called Parker Lewis Can't Lose.
Oh yeah, of course.
That was Parker Lewis.
Oh, okay. I know who he is then, of course.
But he's done other stuff, obviously.
You're a Parker Lewis fan. That's so random. That's
the first time. Ever since then, I've been a fan of Corin Nimick. And he's actually done a lot of independent films. He's written. He's
colorful rugby shirts.
Published books.
Didn't he wear like
everything.
Colorful rugby shirts?
Yeah. So I remember when the dad shirt came back into mod, and he was wearing them all the time. Yeah, that. So but he engages, and he is. I can't tell what side of the political spectrum he's on, but I know that he's more center right than anything from what I can gauge. But he will actually have an honest debate with somebody from the left, as long as they're not screeching and telling him that he is evil and blah, 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 and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
this is something that I really don't like about the political discourse on social media, is how freely the term evil is used. Evil is a very weighted term.
Yeah.
Evil has a strict definition, and you can't throw it around like that. Very few people actually fall under that category.
Correct.
Some political operatives to this day that do, but you can't call somebody you don't know that has 20 followers that makes a difference of opinion from your tweet evil. That just makes no sense to me.
Well, and not only that, the thing you're accused, and the last line of what I said I changed about the country is, and stop manipulating everyone into thinking people who disagree with them are evil, or that half the country is evil. It's so fucking insane. And it's like, here's the thing. Even if you think that the people at the top who are manipulating people to believe certain things, they may have some malicious intent. Some of them may be kind of evil. Okay, but the people who are good-hearted folks who were tricked into getting so riled up about all this stuff, they're not evil. They're regular people. And 10 years ago, they wouldn't even given a shit, except now they've been hypnotized into thinking that half the country is racist and wants to kill them. And there's a lot of people on the right who are like, if you vote for a Democrat, you're a fucking communist. It's like, these people aren't communists. They're my family members. They've
just have a difference of opinion.
Well, and they've been riled up. Everyone's been riled up. It's like we should all detach from that source of divisiveness.
Rhetoric,
Yeah, the divisive. We should all look at it and go, wait, we're listening to politicians about what's important in life? Like, let's just all get back to the basics.
As much as I would prefer for a celebrity to, I guess, for lack of a better term, stay in their lane, that's not healthy either. If they really have an opinion and they want to make it known, that's fine. And it adds to the discourse. But it's always disheartening when I see somebody who has 1 million followers, they take this broad brush and claim that a certain segment of the population is illiterate or stupid or brainwashed or evil or, whatever. And I'm like, you cannot do that. It drives me crazy. I mean, Stephen King is one. Rob Reiner's another one. Chris Evans, of all people. But Richard Marx, he is trying so hard to stay relevant that he tweets this kind of stuff out all the time. And all I can do is laugh at it because, dude, when was your last hit? I mean, seriously, I think I was.
But here's the thing.
In college. Here's
the thing about a lot of the Stephen Kings and even the Rob Reiners, okay? Here's how I justify a lot of it in my mind, because I've recently actually reread, we talked about The Stand, and I'll still, listen, Rob Reiner made some of the greatest movies in world history.
Oh, definitely.
Stand By Me and Princess Bride, and just, so I could still, I'll still watch that movie and not give one thought to, Rob Reiner, the dickhead is.
Right.
But here's also why, because when he was 37 and made that fucking movie, the last thing he was thinking about was something political, right?
Exactly.
So I don't care if the 74-year-old version is online hammering away at how Trump needs to go to prison. It's like, okay, the current version of you is that guy, but the 40 years ago art that you put out and now belongs to us, that you were an amazing artist, and I can completely compartmentalize that. And I
have.
A lot of people don't. They're like, I refuse to watch Netflix. Anything Hollywood made, I want. It's like, dude, come on.
You're punishing yourself.
You're making it worse.
So yeah, I can disassociate, but sometimes it's very difficult to disassociate because that particular entertainer carries his politics or her politics into whatever film or documentary or, piece of music that they're doing, that kind of thing.
Yes.
And so it seeps in and it taints it. And it doesn't matter, like I said, it really doesn't matter what side of the aisle does it.
No.
It kind of drives me crazy.
Well, somebody replied to me and they said, would you say this if it was Kid Rock? I said, first of all, it'd have to be big enough, because when I went after Stefan, I didn't even go after him. But they're like, would you have questioned if it was Kid Rock saying something political? I said, first of all, I'd have to be a Big Kid Rock fan to even give a shit enough to say something to him. I'm not. He's got a couple songs that are really good. But I go, yeah. I said, if I was a big fan and he was online directly going after his fan base and mocking I go, yeah, I would say something to him.
Definitely.
First of all, like, again, who am I to say, like, I still probably delete it because I do feel cringe. It's like, John Cat, like, I'm some authority. I'm no authority on anything. I don't know shit.
I swear to God, you delete so many tweets. It drives me crazy.
I have OCD. I really do. Here's the thing. I can't fully absorb it till I see it on my page for a minute. I think also leaving it there, I should just be more selective about what I first tweet. Because I'll spontaneously, a thought will pop in my head, I'll tweet it, and then a minute later, I'm like, it sounds so stupid. Like, it's not funny. I'm like, you're trying to be funny. It's not funny. And then I just delete it. It's like, no one's going to laugh at that.
Whenever I tweet anything, it's basically a throwaway.
I should be more, I wish I was more carefree with it. You know which ones I really do delete, because I just mentioned it, is ones where I'm trying to be funny, right? Because those are the ones I cringe at myself most, because it's like, yeah, it was funny in my head, but it's not really funny. Like, I need a focus group to bounce these off of.
I'll be honest, the one that you were redoing over and over today, that one was funny to me.
It wasn't even supposed to be that. It was supposed to be like a simplistic observation. Not only did I redo it and delete it, it has 3 edits to it.
Yes.
Because I'm like, oh, the hashtag is stupid. This is what I do. I'm like, here's the other thing. If it's not aligned properly, I'll delete it a lot of times. So like, and Android's different than Apple. So the way I see it, I don't even think it's how other people see it. The way it spaces, like how much room you have per line. But if it looks discombobulated, even from a physical standpoint, sometimes I just think it looks ugly on my timeline and I'll delete it. How insane is that?
That's pretty insane.
I like things being neat. It's the same part of my brain where if I was going to make an important list on a piece of paper and I had a squiggly line or an error and I had to cross something out, I would scrap the whole paper because I don't want to see the cross out. And you know what I mean?
I really understand that.
Like I want it to be clean and organized.
I have gotten into the habit of writing letters to my family members and I write to my parents, but I write to them in Spanish to keep up my Spanish. And they're over the moon about that. They think it's just great and everything. My mom will be like, you scratched this word out? And I was wondering why you didn't just start over.
See? Me and your mom.
You're like, okay, I get it.
I agree with mom, yeah.
And the thing was, I would have started over, but it was so far down. It was like the second to the last. So I would have had to have written the whole thing. And I just said, you know what, I just don't have time for this. And that's why I mailed it. But I'm currently writing a journal as part of self-therapy. And yes, if I cross out a word,
yeah,
no. Yeah. But it's a journal, so I just have to leave it in there, you know. So I totally get that.
No, that's smart. I should journal more. I do write a lot. I do like it's funny because I was just saying I'm as disorganized with journaling as anything. So I'll have a thought. Sometimes I'll text it to myself. Like I'll just text myself paragraphs. Sometimes I will take out a legal pad and write a couple, but it's like it's all over the place. I should just have one journal. It's like I'm just pouring these random thoughts into different spots.
I have never kept a diary, and the only time that I ever journaled before this time, I was going through a really, really rough patch. This was 2012, I think it was. And seriously, it wasn't even 2 weeks worth of entries before I finally, decided that I could now start the process of healing myself. And that was that. I ended up throwing it away. This one is completely different. My mom really accuses me of this constantly. I am too free with myself. I give of myself until there's nothing left.
Yeah, we've talked about that.
And she said, you got to stop because, and the reason I started was one of the letters that I wrote to my mom, I was explaining how, a friend's mother had passed away and my girlfriend's grandfather passed away and a friend's husband passed away. And then I said, that wasn't the only thing. I actually had to help 3 other friends after our podcast together that they suffered losses, huge losses. And I was just like, I don't know what else to do, Mom. She's like, you do more than enough and you need to cut back. And I have a really good friend online. He is kind of my religious person that I focused my religion with, and he was saying the same thing, that I just don't know when to quit and I need to take care of myself in order to take better care of others. So that's why I started that journal.
Is that me? Are you? Am I your religious leader? Because I remember telling you the same thing when we talked. Is it John
um,
Katz, the Jew who doesn't know any prayers?
the the weird thing is that yes, you pointed it out and you did help me to start
I don't want
focusing
credit for
myself
helping,
better.
but it's an obvious trait about you, yeah, that you are very selfless.
And you know, I've had to actually I can't cut people out of my life, but I can step back until such time. And I've actually told some others that, you know, I'm here if you need me, but I'm not going to be reaching out anymore.
Mm.
That's up to you. If you need me, then you know where I'm at. I just cannot keep doing that. And I did say that to a couple of people, and one of them actually said, I am so sorry that I'm not there for you. And I was like, oh, girl, that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I was like, we've been friends since like college. That is not what I'm saying at all. I'm just letting you know that if I'm silent, it's not because I'm ignoring you. It's just that I'm waiting for you to need me. And once you know, cross that, then, you know,
Mm.
that's okay. Another person, I have no idea. They've not communicated with me in any way, but I'm assuming that things are good because they don't need me. So they know that I'm here, and if they need me, they can reach out. But
Huh.
I cannot constantly be there and saying, I'm right here. What is it that you need? You know, every day. I just can't do that anymore. I do have to take care of myself.
You
So,
do.
so
You
that's
really
why
do.
I started the journal so that I can keep track of how I am doing things
That's
for
smart.
myself, you know.
That's smart. It's
And you
nice that
should too.
you. I should. I use like the pod. The pod's kind of my. I don't do it often enough, but I really do. I kind of treat it as a journal. It's like my same cathartic
Oh
thing.
yes. Oh
I could just
yes.
kind of rant every few weeks about whatever's on my mind. It's nice that you
And it's
communicate.
cool. I like it. Every so often, you know, I'll scroll through your thing. It's like, ooh, wait. That sounds cool. And I'll hit play and I'll be like, yeah, he makes really good points, you know.
I just went back and looked at old ones, and I was like, it was so cringy to me to see them. The reason it well, here's the thing. The reason it was like, forgetting how amateurish it looked, and not that this isn't complete fucking amateur hour now, but the reason I was really cringing at myself was because I could tell I wasn't fully just naturally being myself. I could tell that I, in my head, was going, I'm doing a podcast right now. And I was thinking
Right.
about all these, and I could see it in myself. And then when I pulled up some newer ones, and I was like, okay, I could see like the moment I started to just kind of, because people would say to me, I would ask people, my family, you know, what do you think? And they go, it's good, but like just talk to me, talk to like you talk to me, like when you're
Yes.
ranting. And I go, I don't know how to do that. I'm sitting in a room by myself, like I'm trying to be natural, but it took me a minute. And now I just kind of am kind of doing a private journal almost, and I go like I'll edit it and I'll figure it out and I'll put it out. Like I'm just kind of sitting there now, just rambling on about whatever's in my head, and I could see that it's just how it's
I
my
had
internal voice, just free association or whatever.
I had toyed with the idea of doing a similar podcast to the
You
one that
should.
you do. And I said, yeah, I can't do that. And the reason for that is that it is very easy for me to look at the camera and pretend that it's somebody.
Right.
And I don't want to do that to the extent to where I'm telling them all sorts of stuff. Because if I'm putting a podcast out there,
Well, if
I
it's
want it to at least,
live,
yeah, and I want it to be stick to the format that, you know, me and my partner have come up with. Like, this is what we're going to talk about. And
right.
we kind of stick to it every so often, but
Yeah.
we deviate. We obviously deviate all the time. And it's one thing to do it for radio and quite another to do it video wise like this.
Yeah.
You know, when you sent me a message, it told me, oh, no, don't forget it's on video. And I'm like, yeah, I better comb my hair.
Yeah. If mine was live, I'd be way more worried. That's part of why I can relax, because I know I could just cut And believe me, I've cut a whole shit. I did like a 2-hour episode. I never aired it, any of it, because it really did turn into like a personal journal for me. I was like, I can't.
And that's,
I was like, I can't put that
that's
out.
not always that's not a bad
No,
thing.
but I wasn't
And
thinking at the time. It's just that's kind of how it goes now. If it was live, I would be I've said stuff on you guys' show live that I wouldn't say on here, and then if I said on here, I probably would cut it out.
would
For
have cut
sure.
it out.
Yeah, for sure. But once it's out there, it's it. So I could see that.
But but it's always fun, and sometimes, I don't know if you'll keep this on, but prior to getting on, I wash my face, I brush my teeth, I put pajamas on. Literally wearing pajamas doing your podcast. I mean,
Perfect. I'm always casual. The last guest was all dressed up. I go, you're making me look. I go, I'm in a t-shirt and hat. You're making me look so professional. She's like, next time I'll dress down a bit for you. Yeah.
And the reason I did that was I'm so used to, whenever I do my podcast, to already get ready for bed and put on my pajamas and be relaxed. I'm gonna be wearing relaxed clothing, my slippers, and everything. And so I did that. I get on, I tell you I'm here and everything, and then I realize, oh my God, I'm wearing pajamas. But they're kind of nice.
No, if you didn't say they were pajamas, I would have just thought it was
it
like
looks
a
like a
blouse.
velour shirt.
Yeah. I would, but now I could see it's a pajama shirt. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, so
no, it's perfect. Pajamas. I'm pantless. So
there you go.
I'm joking.
Hey.
But,
everybody goes, what?
Yeah, no, I think a lot of people, I guarantee you a ton of video podcast people are wearing like a collared shirt and boxer shorts. Or on Zoom.
I would not doubt it. I'd be comfortable.
I had a Zoom call recently. I had on a polo and like old ripped basketball shorts. I was like, I look like Adam Sandler going to play basketball. But it's like, why bother putting on a pair of uncomfortable pants? You're not going to see it.
No, and my sister, she works from home now, and she says that that's one of the best things that's ever happened to her working, because the company that she was working for is actually based out of Hawaii. So she's working here for the company in Hawaii, and they're really behind on the time. They're like 5 hours behind Central Time or
something like that.
Eastern, I don't know.
5-6 hours, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. And so she's in pajamas and doing the work and everything. And by the time everybody gets to work over there, she's had lunch,
right.
She's put on her, and she's like, there were days that she didn't even get out of her pajamas because there was no video conferences or anything like that. So she just stayed in her pajamas. She's like, I cannot believe that I wore heels to work for almost 25 years. This whole time I could have just stayed home.
Yeah, nobody envisioned. By the way, I forgot to I meant to mention at the beginning of the show, we're doing a list. We're going to actually start it soon. We're doing our top 5 favorite female musicians, which is a big
music
topic.
Artists,
and
I guess.
Music artists. They could be a lead singer. They could be a solo artist. I meant to mention this at the beginning. Stick around for that in a minute. And it changed so fast because, you think about the 70s, 80s, 90s. I remember going to the office with my dad, and people would, and still people do this, commute for hours so they can go sit in a room with the door closed and be on the phone and maybe computer, and there's no clients coming in, and they have a suit and a tie and all. It's like, you could be at home making, and now at least probably the majority of those folks are at home. If you're some insurance broker or something, they're all at home now. They used to be in an office 9 to 5 every day, suit on, tie on.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're meeting a client now, they're making all those calls in their underwear from the couch.
I thought it was funny. I was in a thrift store. This is kind of related. I was in a thrift store. Oh, I'm always in a thrift store. But in this case, there was a gentleman, maybe late 20s, early 30s, that age range. And he was looking at the ties. And, I was next to the ties looking at there was a piece of furniture or something. I forget what it was. And suddenly he, waves to one of the workers. And the worker comes over and is like, do you have any clip-on ties? And I'm like, I haven't heard about clip-on ties in a long time. And me being me, I, of course, had to ask. And he said, after COVID, when he had to work remote and his the person that he worked for decided to do away with the offices and just do remote work because it saves money.
Yeah,
There's no rent anymore or anything like
of
that.
course.
But he still has to wear a tie whenever he's in Zoom meetings, and he doesn't want to tie anything. So
Just
he just
clips.
wants a clip on that he could just grab and put on.
Smart.
And I was like, that is genius.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all coming back, right? Because I remember my dad had an entire collection of clip-on
Oh,
ties. I told him, I said, if you don't find any here, there's another thrift store you can, try. And I told him where and all that stuff and everything. And I'm assuming that he found some after all. But I thought that it was funny that a clip-on tie was seen as something that's even more, it gives you the look without the effort
yeah.
and without and you're still relaxed because he didn't want to even button
You do the T-shirt
the
with
top.
the T-shirts with the tie like
Yeah,
painted onto them. You could do one of those.
yeah, I remember those. The tuxedo T-shirt.
Yeah, no, you know what? It's one of the few benefits of COVID, and even to a lot of the business owners. Like I look at my old company because they're a perfect example of exactly what you said, which is they operated one way for so long. People had to go home and work remotely, and then after a year of that, they went, you know what? We don't need to bring them all back to the office. This is
No,
working. We can save whoever thousands a month in overhead, not having to lease as big a space. We'll only keep,
people would save on gas, on parking, because some places they require you to actually purchase parking
well, and you're
spaces. So
wasting a couple hours of your day, more. Forgetting even just the commute, the whole part where you have to wake up and shower and put your face on and put your tie on and all that. Then the commute itself, add all that up and the drive home. It's like you could be more productive. You could wake
yeah,
up, hop in the shower, wake yourself up, and jump right on the computer in your boxer shorts, and you're ready to go. And there's
and
nothing
a lot
that
of people still do that.
way more doing it, and it hasn't just benefited the people; it's benefited a lot of, like I said, the business owners.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Now there are some places where you actually do have to go to
for
work,
sure.
obviously, but
But
there,
yeah, face to face with clients is a lot of
that's
jobs.
necessary.
Yeah, for sure. If you're an attorney, but even then, even people that meet with clients, attorneys and things like that, they're hybrids now. They're still
Hmm.
making all these calls from home and it's nice. It is one of the few benefits. Do you want to do the list?
Sure.
This was hard. I suggest these without even thinking how freaking hard this one was going to be. We
It
decided it's
was
such a
difficult. It really
well.
was.
Last time we did top 3. I usually do top 5, but I was like 3 is way too hard. We have to at least do 5.
I had 10 and I had to I'm still trying to.
My top 2 are kind of a little too on the nose. Like they're not that weird, but yeah, it's always who do you keep off the list completely, which is the really hard part.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
this is top 5. Again, this is our favorite female. This isn't like a critical who's the best vocalist and all that kind
No.
of stuff. This is our 5 personal favorite female musicians, solo band, you name it. We'll do ladies first, starting with 5, and we'll count them up to the top reveal.
Okay. So excuse me
Drum
because,
roll, not drum
at
roll.
56, I need these. So,
No worry.
let's see. Okay. So my number 5, believe it or not, is someone who's still with us today and still kicking ass. And that has to be Cyndi Lauper.
Wow.
I know. I know. I'm bringing you the 80s.
I had her under consideration. I loved old Cindy. Go ahead. Sorry.
It's just, she was completely different and she was so out there and she was not afraid to be different. And I think that's what made a lot of people who felt like outsiders flock to her. But she has a lovely voice and she is a very talented writer. And,
Yeah. She almost like Lady Gaga for her day or something.
yes. And,
Yeah.
and,
And didn't get the credit the way Gaga for actually having
no,
that
she
musical
was
talent because she was so kind of out there and weird. Sorry.
that and Madonna. They
Yeah.
both came out at the same time, and everybody liked Madonna better because Madonna was more
Sex symbol.
sexual.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But Cyndi Lauper has such a wide range, and it's not just in her vocalizations, but also in what she has written, her different styles, and and she changes, she's constantly doing something new. I admire her because she is, even outside of her music, she is very involved with LGBT issues, and especially gay youth back in the 80s and 90s, when a lot of people were not.
Wait, you're not a lefty. I thought you hate gays. Sorry, I'm going to edit that out. But no, I was obviously joking because that's how people fucking think. Sorry, go ahead.
But she was, she has helped a lot of people who were lost, who had no place to turn to. And, she gave a lot of herself. And some people actually think that her career suffered because of it, because she didn't become as big as she should have.
That's why you feel such a kindred connection there, because she gave herself to other people the way you do.
And she still does. And she's constantly doing it. I mean, and I don't know what she uses on her face, but that woman has not aged.
See, she's a good example, because, again, people were trying to come at me about Stefan, and I was going, there's humanistic issues. Even someone else chimed in on my side and said, there's issues we all agree on, right? Mm-hmm. Cindy, I remember when I was a kid, one of the things, we must have watched the VHS at my dad's of We Are the World 10 million times with her and every star in the world.
Everybody in it.
Everyone. Yeah. Everyone was kind of on the same page with that shit. It was like, yeah, we're all trying to have peace and love. It's not about... Cindy isn't arguing with trolls. It's a deeper cause than that. It's a humanistic cause.
Exactly. She puts her cause out there and everything. She's always treated everybody nicely, regardless of their politics, because for her, the needs of people transcend politics. And that's how she's always looked at it. Now, admittedly, she does lean left, but she's never, ever gone after the right like some other people have. So, I do think she has lived her life really well. And she has, come day of judgment, if, God would look at her and just say, oh, yeah, you can come right in. He's
yeah, she really is a legend. It's such nostalgic vibes with her between the Goonies and We Are the World, and there's got to be 100 covers of like Time After Time, just because it's such a great. It's like one of the best songs.
And I think the anthem that struck a lot of my gay friends was True Colors. When that song came out, which was in essence a tribute to the gay community, a lot of my friends were no longer afraid, to classify themselves as gay. Not that they were being persecuted or anything. It was just, to them, it felt like, yeah, maybe people won't like me, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like...
You couldn't be, in most places in the country, even because I always say when I was in high school, which I graduated in 97, there was not one openly gay kid in my whole high school. And this is mid-90s in a very melting pot area. But you couldn't be out like... Now, we all knew who the gay people were, for the most part. But you couldn't like openly have a boyfriend and be... I do think it is good, because obviously people really are gay. And
yes, obviously. But,
I've known gay people, and they wouldn't choose, especially when you're young, you would never choose that for yourself. We're going back to a time before everybody was trying to identify as a pink hippopotamus. It's like, but it is nice. Now, if you're a gay kid in high school, you could have a boyfriend and a real life and not have to hide from everyone.
That's true. When I was in high school back in the 80s.
It's okay. Not that long ago.
There were four of my friends.
Like openly though?
Openly gay.
But where'd you go to school? Where'd you live?
South Texas.
Wait, you had open gay... They were girls, though.
No.
You had open gay dudes in Texas in the 80s? Like, that's interesting. Yeah, because I was in Palm Beach County, Florida, and it wasn't even like that.
No,
which is weird.
And we didn't think anything of it. As a matter of fact...
I'd have been fine with it. I mean,
one of my best friends from high school, he came out... He was my first kiss. Wow. He came out 2 weeks later.
You turned him. No. Was he gay before the kiss with you is the real question.
Yeah, and his husband is always laughing about that. It's like, yeah, you turned him, and I got lucky. And I'm like, oh, please, Tony, no.
So I wasn't making an original joke there, but yeah, that's
But no, when he came out, and everybody was like, yeah, okay, we knew. It
yeah.
was like, no, not a big deal. We
Well,
didn't
that
think it was a big deal. Now, um, they weren't none of them dated each other. There were just four guys that I knew that had come out, and I'm sure that there were girls too, but I never heard of
girls,
any
I knew of
till
girls
way.
hooking up with girls, but that was like, cool. It's like,
Yeah,
yeah,
and most guys are like, yeah,
yeah.
that's cool.
No, girls didn't feel ostracized in the same way for
No,
doing lesbian
but
stuff.
and the thing is, the area, though it is a blue area, it was very conservative because it was very highly Catholic.
Yeah.
So,
Just
but
Texas in general in the 80s surprises me, but that's
well,
nice.
but there were a lot of movies where they had gay
Mm.
characters, and quite a few movies where the gay characters were the protagonists.
Well, I would see it like when I would go up
So
to New York. I would see it. We go to the
mhm.
city. I go with my dad, like the village, and so it's like everywhere.
Oh, the village.
Forget it. It was everywhere. But I go back home to Virginia or Florida, wherever I was living, and you would see none of it. But that's why I
My
say
dad,
depending.
my dad lived in Greenwich Village when he was attending Fordham University, and he told me that he was probably the only straight guy there. And this was back in the 50s.
Yeah, starting in the 80s, I was going up to New York to visit my dad all the time. We would always go to the city. He worked in the city, and yeah, you would see openly gay
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. So,
Uh,
but yeah. So okay. So you're
we
you're
got
number
onto a
five.
lot of gay things. I'll be in my room painting homo things. What is that from Wedding Crashers? You know what I'm talking about? The little weird kid, he's like hitting on Vince Vaughn. All right. Number 5. All right, coming in number 5 for me. I just tweeted about this, and to be honest, I don't know if I would have picked it if I didn't just tweet this video, but I went with Gwen Stefani. And again, my picks are very nostalgic, okay? That was such a ground. I'm very big on like vibe and energy
Hmm.
and originality, and that was such a groundbreaking thing when No Doubt came out. I would have been. Actually, I do remember because I remember my friend's mom playing that, playing Don't Speak. Yeah, so I was like a freshman in high school, which is the right age. But what I said about the video I tweeted, because I tweeted a live performance of Don't Speak from like 1995 or something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was just looking at her face, and then I screenshotted her face in a follow-up tweet, and I said, like, can we just stop and recognize what a vibe young Gwen was? Because she just had such a aura and energy. And then that band, now current Gwen, new Gwen, again, I don't judge people on who they are now, but I give her a lot of credit for being so original and doing a new thing. And there weren't really any female rock, punk, grunge, whatever they were doing.
No,
Nobody else
there
was doing
weren't.
that. She wasn't even supposed to be the lead singer of that band. She was just like kind of the young hanger-on girl. I don't remember the whole story, VH1 storytellers or whatever, but she was just kind of like and then she sang one day and they went like, holy shit, she's
Yeah,
got to
you're
be the
ours.
singer. So yeah, No Doubt, not No Doubt, Gwen Stefani / No Doubt. I'll go ahead and give her credit for the band, which was short-lived, and then some of her solo stuff was good too, but the older stuff mostly. I don't know her new shit. All right, number 4, you're up. Who do you got?
I have number 4, somebody that was before my time, but I think of her at every time I see the old, Ed Sullivan shows and all that stuff. Diana Ross,
Mm.
and there was some quality to this woman that was just incredible, and all of them, all of the Supremes, yes. But when she went on with her career as a solo artist, she not only did, a lot of singing, but she also did acting. I was shocked. She could act. You did not expect somebody whose talent was strictly vocal to actually translate the pain of the songs that she was singing into acting. And she did an exceptionally great job. I mean, I don't know if you ever saw Mahogany or the other one that escapes me. She was Orlando Calrissian in another movie, and I cannot think.
I haven't, but I'll take a look. I only know her songs were still huge when I was a kid. So
Billie Holiday, yeah,
okay,
she was Billie Holiday, and it opened up my eyes to how Billie Holiday just the abuses in her life and everything. Because I just knew Billie Holiday as this fantastic singer. And I remember my dad's Decca records, and listening to them at home, and it was just great and everything. But when I saw Diana Ross portraying her, I was like, that woman suffered so much. No wonder she sang the way she did. Diana Ross had a career that spanned decades, and it was always something different. And then she became this icon with the hair and the gloves, and she always wore those long opera gloves everywhere she went. And it was just, to me, it was just like, okay, now you have gone from artist to icon. Everybody recognizes you. So as soon as they see the gloves, that's you, that kind of thing. But her music has incentivized me to seek out other artists that were in the same genre, and also artists that came before her, because she was really, everybody says that there's always a glass ceiling. And I'm like, no, dude, she must have broken at least 5 that I can see. She is still, to this day, one of my favorites. I could sit and listen to Diana Ross every day, twice on Sundays.
Yeah, it just goes to show hearing you listen to it, because it's like I'm thinking, well, why don't I know more Diana Ross? And there's no good reason, because she has a beautiful voice and I love old stuff. And it's like, yeah, I should go back and fall in love with some of her songs I've never heard. It just really shows you how much amazing, even as someone who listens to music all day, how much amazing, iconic, legendary stuff, like, even still isn't even in my wheelhouse, because there's just so much.
Well, the same for me. It's like, I used to work for a company called Suncoast Motion Picture Company, and they sold videos as opposed to renting them out. So we had to learn a lot about every upcoming movie, and I got used to learning about actors and actresses and filmmakers and all the tech stuff and everything and all that stuff. And after a while, it became so politicized to watch a movie that I just gave up. I don't think I've seen a new movie in like 20 years.
Wow. Get on it. It's easier than ever to watch any movie too.
Yeah. And the thing is, and this is the golden age of remakes.
Yeah.
It has been the remakes and reboots. That's all we're getting right now.
But you can go on Netflix now and watch any movie from 1920 to current, and you have it all at your fingertips. Get on it. Yeah, I'm gonna make you a list.
I should. I have a Netflix account.
Do you want a list of like my top 50 favorite movies in the last 20 years? I'll make you a list.
Make the list.
I can see why, and a lot of musicians actually are good natural actors. It's like the two mediums where I feel like it would translate, because so much of acting is getting in touch with your emotions. And if you're a really good singer and
it's the same. Yeah, and it's the same, actors that become really good musicians, and translate it that way.
Yeah, but you can't teach. In other words, some people just can't sing, right? So if you're an actor with a shitty voice, nothing you could do about it. But if you're a singer, they do throw a lot of singers into movies, and they just hit the ground and go. Elvis jumped probably one of the first. They just went, here you go. But he was a natural, because he elicits so much emotion singing. It's such a natural transition to just do that on the screen, I think. All right, that's a great pick. She is a legend. This was kind of like my kind of outsider pick, I would say. My more number 4, because she's not a household name like these other people. I don't think, like everyone else on the list, you just say their name and it's like, oh. So I went with number 4, Dolores O'Riordan. May she rest in peace. She was the lead singer of the Cranberries.
The Cranberries.
Speaking of lead singers of female, now the style was much different. Obviously, I was talking about No Doubt a minute ago. But when I did my last list, here's the thing: if I just went off of, in fact, if I really went off this entire list and said of these 5, who have I listened to the most? It's probably Dolores and the Cranberries. I'm sure like their big hits like Linger and Dream and all, but and then she died a couple years back, which is very sad. And then some of those songs kind of took on a different meaning. Like my favorite song of theirs is When You're Gone, which is it's a really underrated, but they played it at her funeral. And then it kind of became, I never really related it to like that type of Gone before. I always thought of it more of a love song. It's funny how songs change meanings like that.
I totally agree. That song did change meanings. And it's not the first time that a song changes meaning for me. Growing up, my next door neighbor loved George Jones, and every so often I'd hear he stopped loving her today, and I would get so upset because I thought he was leaving her, until I read the lyrics. I took time to actually read the lyrics, and now I cannot hear that song without bursting into tears and crying buckets and just, being prone on the floor. And
Well, I like when
totally get it.
artists, kind of what we were talking about before, once you put out art, whether it's music, it belongs to the people. And the good artists, because I've heard them talk about this specifically, they want people to have their own interpretation. They don't want to make it too specific. That huge hit, Far Behind by Candlebox, which I got into a thing about recently, everyone knows that song, and everyone applies it to different things in their life. But the truth is, he wrote it about his friend that OD'd and died. And he said specifically he didn't want to make it too much about him so that people could. Another great example, Matchbox 20, that song 3 a.m., right?
Yes.
Huge hit.
Yeah.
He wrote that about his mom when she was dying of cancer. Everyone I know views it as a love song. But again, he has specifically said he didn't want people to just relate it to his own experience with his dying mother. He wanted people to be able to relate it to their romantic relationship or something else. So I like that. I like that even though they're very personal when they write it, it's like, here, you take this and now apply it to your life.
Another one was Tears of Jupiter. That song was written, obviously, but everybody has a different meaning.
Drops of Jupiter?
Drops of Jupiter. Yes, Drops of Jupiter.
What's that song really about?
Passing of his mother, I believe.
Interesting. Yeah, everyone. No, I don't know.
So everybody has a different.
That she's take back in the atmosphere. No. That was a huge hit.
Rocket.
That was a big one. I forgot about that song.
No, there are, there's a lot of songs that are written. In the Air Tonight, Phil Collins wrote that song. And you know what that song's about?
Hang on.
I think it's about his divorce.
Well, all of his songs are about, he had like that one heartbreak that he's still to this day.
Yes.
He's that guy. Or I talked to a friend and he said like in an interview, like he'd still in 2 seconds, like he would go back to it right now. He's never gotten over that.
But that song has a different meaning for me.
Yeah.
And it's a tragic meaning, and nobody else would have this meaning but me because of what I grew up with, that kind of thing. So I remember, I don't know if you follow her, Lila Lee on Twitter, Jennifer. She had posted, the YouTube video or something, and people were like, such a great song. It's like, she was such a jerk to him and blah, 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 and all that stuff. And I wrote, it's like, every time I hear this song, I think of my family friend's husband who died in a boating accident. And people were like, what? That's not what the song's about. I said, I know that's not what the song's about, but there's a part, you told me you were drowning and I would not lend a hand, that I think, well, he did drown. Him and 2 of his friends went fishing in one of the lakes over in Puerto Rico, and they were drinking. And one of them fell in, and they were laughing at him. They thought that he was joking. And
typical dudes,
and he ended up drowning. So they went inside, and they were trying to get him when they realized the boat capsized and all 3 drowned.
Holy shit.
And so, that was a tragedy that I grew up. I want to say I was in 4th grade when that happened. And every time I hear that particular part in that song, that's what I think about. But that's not what the song is about at all.
But that's what's so great about art. That's what really makes it so special. Because if we couldn't internalize and connect with it, we wouldn't feel that way. We wouldn't.
No. And it's not just music. I mean, actual art, the stuff that you hang on the walls and stuff. Yeah, it's the same thing.
Listen, I even apply it to stuff people consider cheaper entertainment, movies and TV. You say you don't watch movies, but if I watch
books, poetry, you name it, everything.
But I'll watch a movie, and the stuff that really gets me and hits me the most in a movie it's when you relate to that scene or that thing or that feeling. You're like, oh, fuck. That's why that's the whole reason people consume art, so that they can feel something.
Yes. And I can stand in front of a piece of art or a painting and be completely self-absorbed in it. I remember in the Ferris Bueller's Day Off, when they go to the Chicago Museum of Art, and Cameron is standing in front of.
You have a lot of movie references for someone that watches no movies, by the way. Yes, I remember.
That one came out in the 80s, though.
Sorry, yeah.
But he's standing in front of Sunday in the Park of La Grande Jatte by Georges Seurat. And
Wow.
you see in his face, he's looking at the young boy and he is just being absorbed into that art. And when I first watched that movie, I did not understand it. But now that I have an appreciation for art, and I've sought it out and I try to interpret what the artist wanted me to feel whenever I see it, then now that scene actually strikes a very deep chord within me because of that. So.
Somebody, I just read, and I rarely retweet people, but I retweeted it because it was so on point, and it was saying exactly what you just said, which is go back and read the books and watch the movies. I actually quote tweeted and said this includes music too. It said that you liked when you were younger because they haven't changed, but your perspective has changed.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so true because I've watched a movie that I saw when I was a kid, and then as an adult, it's a whole different experience. You're like, oh, I get this now. I totally understand. I saw this 18 times when I was a kid. I never understood that emotion in that scene and what the hell they were talking about.
No, it's true. It's true. You should watch everything that you watched when you were younger, when you're older, and you have a different perspective.
Music
and you see
too.
Things that you didn't see when you were little.
No, and music too. I'll hear a song and I'll go, it just elicits a whole different emotion. Or I go, that's what it's about. I never listened to those lyrics before. I can't believe this is what that song is about. This is what Stefan Lessard, not to keep bringing him up, he doesn't understand. You're talking about the art. It's like, is it really that complicated? The point I was trying to make to the guy, your art is so meaningful to people. Why are you trying to alienate people that you've touched in such a real way? I don't get it. I don't get that impulse.
I don't think that they see that they're doing.
In his good heart, he actually thinks he's being virtuous and he's stomping out racism or something. It's like, come on.
Yeah, and he's not.
I have to tell myself that to excuse it. Yeah,
to a certain degree, he does see himself that way, and he sees his reaction towards people who push back as
evil.
Him trying to educate them into being better.
Stop trying to suppress me. All artists have always been activists, this and that. I get it. But I don't think that they feel, even the actors, I don't think they feel the opposite perspective. If you have a favorite actress as a young girl and you've watched her movies 100 times and you just have this, and then she comes out mocking and bashing your viewpoints in a public forum, it's very disrespectful to do to people. It's like you may not feel connected to this random fan in Ohio, but they feel connected to you. And it's like, just let them have it. Let them have it for a minute. You don't have to.
And that's another thing. You don't have to engage. You don't have to engage at all.
Someone leaked a video recently of Taylor Swift backstage having a debate. I don't know if you saw this, but she was having a debate with like her mom was there and her publicist or her manager and agent or whoever. And they were debating this very topic. She had written out like this whole diatribe, political thing. And she said, I want to speak on this. And her agent or whoever, who's also agrees with her and on that side politically, I don't know if it was her agent, whoever he was, he's going, listen, I get it. I get why it's important to you. You're basically telling half the fans you don't want them coming to your shows anymore. She's like, but you don't understand how important this issue is to me if you would just listen to me. And like, I could see both sides because she really felt like this is so meaningful. And he was just saying, hey, you're going to alienate these people who love you. So I don't know. I think if you've touched people for one thing, don't deviate from it, maybe. And it's not just shut up and play ball, but it is, hey, have some respect for the art you put out there.
I tend to agree. I remember when, it was 2015, 2016, she was being pressured to actually speak on politics by a lot of journalists, a lot of people on the left,
Well, now she's political.
And now she's very political. And it has, I don't want to say tarnished her. I mean, the woman is brilliant. She writes her own stuff.
I'm a fan.
I will not take any of her success away because that woman worked hard from a very young age to get to where she is today. And I can respect that. And I know that she obviously has deep deep emotions. You hear it in every
Right.
song, everything that she writes, you know. And so I completely get where she's coming from. And I understand that she wants her views known.
Yeah.
But saying it the way she wanted to say it, putting it forth, making a statement, would have actually alienated a lot of people. If she writes a song about it, it won't. Because she is
Right.
using her art
For sure.
to put her voice out there.
Yeah.
And a lot of people would respect that. They may not agree with the message, but they'll respect the fact that she used her talent to get her views out there. It's the same thing with Queen.
Yeah.
You know, one of my favorite songs is Hammer to Fall. Okay. And that is a very anti-war. It was
Yeah.
very anti-Reagan.
Yeah.
It was very anti-right.
Fair.
It's a kick-ass song. It's a great song.
Yeah.
And that's how they got their message out there.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and like we were saying, there's broad human issues too. And there's just a tactful way if you want to talk about stuff. There's a way to be graceful. Even these idiots, look, I'm not tooting my own horn. I don't know shit, whatever, fine. But I'm 99% of the time, I'm respectful to people. And even this asshole today, I won't be respectful to you now. No, look, they try to come at me combatively, and I went, hey, I said, I appreciate the discourse. I said, to be honest, this is only more evidence of how music touches people on a deeper level than all the surface shit that we would never agree with otherwise. Because here's a guy I don't agree with about anything. But again, that song comes on, we feel the same emotions from the song. It has nothing to do with this surface political bullshit. So it's like, you're only reinforcing my argument. And he goes, hey, it's all good, brother, yada, yada. Like, we had a nice exchange. You don't have to, like, personally attack people and make it so intentionally divisive. And whenever I say shit like that, it sounds so preachy, but it's not preachy. It's just have a little tact, have a little grace. And if I do blow up and get out of character for a second, you know, it's a short-lived thing. People stay in that mode all day. It's insane.
I really don't understand it. I don't have enough energy.
Oh, imagine taking on that combative energy all day and that kind of karma and like.
I can understand if it were my job. If I were a journalist, if I were an op-ed person, you know, I could get that. You know, I see what Fu goes through every day. That poor woman.
Fu likes to scrap it out.
Yeah, but you know, that's her job.
Yes, but I think
so I get it.
I think she likes it. Listen,
yeah,
I'm not knocking it. A lot of people like to mix it up.
But I don't have that energy. I don't. I used to, but I just don't anymore. I prefer to watch people. I'm a big people watcher. I got used to doing that when I was studying anthropology because that's what anthropologists, well, that's what they're supposed to do, not what they're doing anymore, but that's what they're supposed to do. And so I got used to doing that. And so I just sit back and I read, I follow exchanges, you know, and everything. Yeah. I'll interject when I feel that I can contribute to a conversation. But I mean, you'll notice most of the time I'm not in a lot of threads, especially political ones. Yeah. I will come to the defense of somebody if I think that they need it. But I got raked over the coals. My alma mater hosted Richard Spencer. And a lot of Aggies were upset about that. Well, the thing is, because it's a public school, the school cannot.
Oh, you went to A&M?
Yes.
Okay.
Thus Aggie.
Yeah. Oh, okay. You know, I never put that together. That you were talking about the A&M Aggies. I thought it was just like a nickname or something. That's so funny. All right.
No, my name is Agatha.
I'm a little slow.
Totally kidding. But you know, a lot of Aggies were upset about that. But because it was a public school, they were not allowed to bar him from speaking. Okay. And the president put out a memo for the student body. The student body president was really upset about that. I mean, she was like livid. Yeah. And I went on there and I said, look, we're Aggies. If we don't stand by the freedom of expression and freedom of speech, then our school stands for nothing. And I got hammered over that. And I kept asking everybody that kept coming after me, where am I wrong? Where am I wrong? I said, the president himself has put out a memo telling you guys why he cannot be uninvited, why he cannot be barred from speaking on campus. So there was a huge back and forth. I mean, I must have had like 200 people coming at me. And I think that was the only time I ever got ratioed.
Yeah. But
But
see, that's the whole distinction there, though, Aggie. We started talking about unconditional patriotism in the beginning.
yes,
Is
yes.
that you or I would never.
I don't support
No,
him.
but here's what I'm saying. If you said to me, John, do you want to ban pro Hillary and Biden memes on Twitter? I would say absolutely not.
No,
And like
I
even
don't
when people
either.
were saying, John, why are you telling Stefan to shut up? I'm not. I don't know if he understands the perspective of how it feels. I'm offering my perspective. I would never want him silenced or banned.
No, and that's just
Yet,
it. And
if you
that's
ask a lot of other people, do you think people should be able to say pro-Trump things? They'll go, no, ban them, censor them. They shouldn't be. It's like you're getting so far away from it. Yeah, Richard
you're
Spencer. I'm
you're not
Jewish,
doing
and I
freedom
think
right.
Richard Spencer should be able to speak, assuming he was a real whatever,
Yes.
because I think he's a Fed or something anyway. But yes, I do think
I think
some
so too.
Nazi
I
white
think so
nationalists.
too. And that was the weird thing. I'm in that thing. And I'm telling them, I said, we are Aggies. That is what unites us. Our love of our school, our love of country, regardless of politics.
Well, and
I said,
people can
and
boo him.
yeah, and that was the beautiful part. And I said, here's the thing: the Corps of Cadets is there for the protection of our students, not to protect Richard Spencer. They're protecting our students.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. You have an area where you can actually protest if you want to. You, as a student, are not obligated to attend his speech.
Right.
And I said, but if you're smart, you will go hear what he has to say, because that way you can then rebut it intelligently.
Yeah.
And so, he goes, he did his speech and everything. And yes, the Corps of Cadets was out there, keeping an eye on making sure the students didn't, and nothing happened. The student body was actually very respectful. They did have a protest out there. They didn't shout him down. He came out and he started, he said, do y'all have any questions for me? And yeah, so they did.
Yeah.
They started asking him all sorts of questions. And even Spencer said, this was a complete surprise. I thought that I was going to get stuff thrown at me and all this stuff. And he had a really good experience with the protesters because they behaved themselves. They understood the man has a right to speak. And so, like 2 days later, somebody replies to that thread, to me on that thread again, and says, in retrospect, what you were saying, you were completely correct. I don't understand why you support him. I said, I never said I supported him. As a matter of fact, I find him abhorrent. But if you ban hate speech, then you fall in the trap of having to define what hate speech is.
Exactly.
And guess what? Only one side can define it.
Yeah.
So
you hit the nail on the head there, 100%. That it's always going to come down to a battle of opinions. There's no consistency.
It's always that.
Anyone should be able to say whatever the fuck. The irony of it is they're going, this guy's a fascist, so let's implement fascist tools to shut people down from speaking.
It's like you're basically trying to out-fascist a fascist.
Right. Yeah, and it's fine. Sure, if objectively 99% of the population can say Richard Spencer's an abhorrent person, that's great. But like you set that precedent, and now the next time who gets to decide and who gets to decide. And it's always going to, this is my whole problem with every issue, is that it always comes down to a battle of whose morals do we get to impose on everybody else. You have to be consistent, whether it comes to liberty, any of that type of stuff. You have to have a consistent argument, and it should be completely irrelevant what that person's opinion is.
It's funny
Apply
because
the same standard.
Sigmund Freud said words to the effect of people don't really like liberty.
Right.
Because with liberty comes responsibility, and most people don't want responsibility. They don't want to take responsibility because then failure will be on their shoulders. They can't blame anybody but themselves. And that's one of the big reasons why some people, they prefer the safety to liberty. And as Ben Franklin said, if you, choose safety over liberty, you'll have neither.
Yeah, they don't want they want the safety. They also don't want to be disagreed with. More than ever, people don't want to hear right. They just want the echo chamber. They just
Yeah.
want everyone to agree with them.
I don't agree with,
People don't want to be
my
challenged.
family.
Right.
I love them, but I don't agree 100% with them.
No, you know what I love? I love being challenged in an authentic and intellectual way. I appreciate it the most. The thing when you talk to people, they're either not paying attention or listening to what the fuck you're saying, or they're just ready to come back with some knee-jerk argument without even thinking about it. It's very rare that someone listens, absorbs, and they don't even have to agree with you. There's a way to disagree and still add to the conversation. And it seems like that's becoming the rarest experience.
I see it in my family all the time. We have a family group on another social media site, and I'm like the black sheep of that group. Somebody will say something about the current policy in one of the towns over in Puerto Rico or something, right?
Yeah.
And I'll put my 2 cents, and she'll tell me, and it's usually she, because most of male cousins don't really get involved. They just sit back and watch the girls bitch at each other. And so she'll say, well, you don't even live here. I was like, I may not live there, but at least I'm actually reading the law that you're talking about.
Right.
And this is what it says, and I'll translate it for them. I'll put it in layman's terms so that they can understand, and then I'll tell them, I said, the reason you don't like it is due to the fact that it was put forth by the guy you didn't vote for. And that's why you don't like it. I'll call him out straight off, well, I don't want to get into a debate. I said, that's the problem. You never want to get into a debate. You want your views out there, but you don't want mine.
Exactly.
And she's like, well, I'm not that way. I'm like, you're literally shutting me out because you don't want to debate.
It's all knee-jerk reaction.
I get it from my family all the time. So you'll go to other social media sites, and my actual page, there's no politics on it.
Right.
None. I only keep it in the group because that's private. Most people can't, only the group family members can access it. And I use it in order to keep up with what's going on back home in Puerto Rico and everything. But I mean, you should have seen the stuff that they were writing after Hurricane Maria, and the things that they were talking about former President Trump. And I kid you not, the same people that hated him then are now liking him now.
Oh,
and I'm like,
sure.
okay, that tells me all I need to know right now. I'm like, how do you like him now? I don't understand.
Well, because they've seen someone else in action, and they're like, hey, that wasn't so bad.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. So it's just like, whatever. But yeah, we're on number 3.
Are we?
Getting back to
Let's
the original.
recap. Who did I had Gwen at 5. Who'd you have at 5?
I had Cyndi Lauper and
Cyndi
Diana Ross.
Lauper and Diana Ross. I had Gwen and Dolores O'Riordan of the Cranberries.
Yeah.
We're going off on a million. This is why we need we'll do like a Rogan, like a 4-hour episode. You're up then. Number 3.
Mine is a little obscure.
Let's hear it.
Lita Ford.
Not too obscure.
And I when she came on the scene, I was just like, because I would listen to Black Sabbath, I would listen to Dio, Ozzy Osbourne, Judas Priest, Metallica, whatever. But I never looked at the bands. I just listened to their music. I never actually watched the videos because I never got into the whole video scene. I mean, I would watch some, obviously. Yeah. But when it came to heavy metal videos, it wasn't the same. It was mostly concert. So I was just, that's kind of boring. So I never watched them, right, or anything. And then when she came, with Kiss Me Deadly, I was like, she can sing and she can rock out. She is actually playing guitar. It never dawned on me that a woman could play electric guitar. Now, I knew that there were women who were classical guitarists. A lot of people don't know this, but Charo is a world-renowned classical guitarist.
Okay.
To this day. She still performs. She's like 80 now or something like that, but she still performs, and she is, she has a ton of awards and everything, but most everybody knows her for the coochie coochie, right? But when I saw Lita Ford, it just clicked on me. It's like, well, of course, if women can play an acoustic guitar, it
Yeah.
makes sense that they can play an electric guitar. But when I saw her, and I was like, oh my God, she is so awesome. And it was mind blowing. And after that, I was like total fan,
That's
total fan.
awesome.
It didn't matter what the song was. It didn't matter what she was saying. She could be singing the Oscar Mayer Wiener
Yeah.
song, and I still loved it, you know. So for me, she was like, she broke a glass ceiling too,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
in a way.
I think that's what makes certain people stand out is when they come in and they're not just repeating what everyone else is doing. They're just I'm gonna
Yeah,
do my own.
yeah. The weird thing is, you know, Hart was already on the scene.
Hmm.
Hart had been around for what,
Yeah. I
decade
just
and a
tweeted a
half
heart
before then.
video recently. Yes.
And both sisters, you know, are like the guitar players and everything. And I had seen that, but
Hmm.
it hadn't clicked because it wasn't the same type of music.
But still, yeah, it wasn't heavy metal.
But it wasn't like Lita Ford.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Lita
Yeah.
did it differently, and she was
Yeah.
like married to it. The rest were playing a guitar. She was married to the guitar. And it was, for me, it was just incredible, you know. And yeah, I get it. I know that there were other female musicians out there that were playing electric guitar, but nothing like Lita Ford. And so for me, that was like the epitome, you know,
It's
of that
interesting. I
particular
never thought
song.
about that. But yeah, I guess yeah, it was like a boys' club. A lot of that
Yes.
rock. You don't think about it, but yeah, the girls were kind of the folk acoustic guitarists, and yeah, when you think about the bands, it was more
Yeah.
rock or pop rock or whatever. They weren't rocking out hard like the dudes were.
No, no. There was, and I hate to sound sexist, but there was definitely a division there. There really was. And you know what? We didn't care. We still appreciated everything that was put out by both sexes. It didn't bother us. It was just that for me, Lita Ford bridged that
Yeah, that's a
completely
good
in a
point. Well, because I
better
think,
way than any other woman did.
and I wasn't around to see, but I feel like where society was at the time, they wouldn't have accepted some hardcore chick like that.
It took a woman that looked like a centerfold to do
Right.
it. I mean, she was beyond hot.
Yeah,
And she had all the
that's a
hair
good
and
point too.
everything,
Yeah.
but
Guys will accept any change if it's coming from a attractive woman. That's true. It is so true, though. If you're gonna trailblaze with something, it helps if you're good looking.
yes, some trailblazed using their looks as, you know, not that they were good looking, but because they used their lack of looks to their advantage. And Carol Burnett actually
Mm.
said that. She wasn't a good looker. I mean, she wasn't bad
Well,
looking.
they say it about funny people for sure that it's a
Yeah.
detriment to be too good looking. I hear it about stand-up comedians a lot
Hmm.
that you almost never see for that reason. There's this guy on TikTok who actually does really well, and all the girls are like, "Oh my god, he's so sexy." This Matt something. But he happens to be really funny. He does like a lot of crowd work. But 99% of successful comedians have not been good looking, and 90% of actors have been. It just kind of shows you. Because people don't think people are funny if they're too hot.
It works against them in the
It
comedy
does work
business.
against them for sure.
And
You're
I
funnier when
think,
you're a little awkward.
yeah, and I can only think of good-looking comedians. Lucille Ball
I think probably
was,
like Eddie Murphy was like a good looking dude, you know? But still, nobody's like, he's some heartthrob. He's just like a regular looking.
I mean, he was good looking,
Yeah, I
but
can't think of any comedian who was also considered a heartthrob. Put it that way. Where everyone was like, this guy's so hot. The only one is this dude who I see his videos all the time now. Matt Rife, I think is his name. You could look him up.
okay.
You know, with the younger crowd, maybe. Maybe that's an evolution we'll see. These younger kids will be like, hey, you could be hot and funny at the same time. But yeah, it's probably a tough combo.
I think it stems from when you're delivering comedy, they want somebody that they can relate to,
Yes.
somebody that they want to see themselves up there so that they
Yeah.
can relate to the joke, you know, because a lot of the comedy stems from real life,
Well, and it's
you
so
know, stuff that happens.
and it's very all self-deprecating. That
Yes.
Comedy. It's
Whereas
like I
an
am a weird
actor,
guy with a weird life, and no one's gonna buy it if you're all well coiffed and handsome.
no, you know, whereas an actor, he's lying for a living. So you kind of expect the prettiness and all that
Yeah, and
you
there's a lot
expect
of
the
romance
icing.
involved in acting, so you want to envision
Hmm.
sexual stuff.
Yeah. So that's why, it works in that way. I think, that's
No,
my
I agree. That's an accurate assessment.
okay.
I gotta keep our list going.
Okay.
All right. Number 3, Stevie Nicks. Speaking of legends, and by the way, if for the whole second half of this episode I sound a little hoarse, I have a tickle in my throat. Ignore me. Stevie Nicks, also pure legend. And again, I
Yes.
gotta. It's funny. My bottom 3, I went with all band lead singers, but similar to Gwen, started with the band and then had a really and still going,
Hmm.
but had a nice long solo career too. Um, Again, iconic because I couldn't think of anyone that I would even put in her category. You know what I mean? Yeah, who else was doing what she was doing when she was doing it? And she was also just her own icon with her own style and her own voice. And she had such a unique energy about her. Yeah, the uniqueness of it. And still, those songs I could still listen to all the time. And are some of the most legendary rock songs in history.
I agree. I agree. Rumors is one of my favorite albums of all
It's
time.
one of the best albums. If you look at like top, because I've looked, if you look at different lists of greatest albums, it's always up there. It's on like everybody's list.
It is.
Yeah,
That's a great choice.
and I was recently, what's the song? I had a discussion not long ago with someone about, because there was all that romantic turmoil in the band
Hmm.
and the
Oh yeah.
awkwardness of having to perform some of those songs. I think it was there's a Silver Springs performance on YouTube, and like she wrote the songs about a dude who's standing 2 feet from
Next
her,
to her.
and they have to like sing, and he's like singing back up to a song about like what a shitty person he is.
Yes.
It's such a strange dynamic, and I think they had said like they didn't perform it again live after that. I was like, no wonder, because it had to just be so weird and uncomfortable. It's got to be such a
Yeah.
mind fuck to do that.
The weird thing is that she and his current wife get along great. They're
Oh,
really
I'm
good
sure.
friends. So,
But
you know,
imagine someone writes a breakup song about you, and then you have to sing that song about yourself from her
yeah,
perspective on
it's
stage in front of all these
I
people.
I'm kind of reminded of, in a way, Carrie Fisher and Paul Simon. They had a horrible, horrible
By the way,
marriage,
No
horrible
Doubt was like
relationship.
that. Gwen and what's his face? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and Paul Simon, after the dissolving of the marriage, wrote an entire album about it. I remember Carrie Fisher having her woman show, and she's talking about it, and she stops and says, "Just FYI, if Paul Simon ever offers to write a song about you, let him, because you have become immortalized. It doesn't matter if it's a
Wait,
song
which
about
song
how
is about Carrie Fisher?
all of them, the entire
I didn't
album
know.
was
Wait,
about that.
we're talking about Princess Leia here, right?
Yes, and I believe Hearts and Bones is
I
the
don't
name of
know
it.
shit about Carrie Fisher in real life. And
She,
somebody told me that if they were picking my parents' vibe, it would be Shia because he's a crazy nutbag, and Carrie because she's so sweet and nice. And I was like, I don't know anything about her. Is she known as being like a really sweet, nice person?
she actually was, and but she had a lot of issues due
Oh,
to
well, that's me.
the
There you go.
her upbringing. I mean, she was daughter of Debbie Reynolds and
What did she even have
Fisher.
a show? You said she had a one woman show. What did she do? Just talk about stuff?
Yeah, it was very comedic and everything. It was about her life.
I never
And
knew any of that.
yeah, look it up. It is a fantastic show. God rest her soul. But she talked about the funny and the sad things in her life. And I mean, her entire life was very tumultuous. She
Interesting.
wrote a book called Postcards from the Edge.
I remember
And
that.
and that was
Well,
based
that
on
was
her life.
huge.
It was huge
I didn't even know she
because
wrote that.
hmm
I have such
she ended up
holes.
writing screenplays for other movies and stuff like that. And her comedy was just so witty, so sharp, so wonderful. She was pigeonholed as Princess Leia, but
Yeah.
let me tell you, outside of that, her career was fantastic.
No,
It
see,
was
I have a lot
it
of
was
holes in
beautiful.
my knowledge of the lexicon, whatever. It's like I know a lot about a certain, and then others. It's like well, I have no idea, no
I know,
clue.
I know. It's I.
No,
And
but it
I
kind of
sometimes I just have things in my head.
no, but it blows my mind because I bet like that's the kind of thing that most people probably like. I bet if I asked most people, hey, did you know Carrie Fisher had this whole one lady and wrote that? People go, yeah, of course I knew that. Like it just, I don't know, surprises me sometimes that I have these glaring holes.
It was really funny, and she even delved into her family history and her family tree. And she talks about her marriages. Her husband, with whom she had her daughter, he came out. They divorced, and he
Mm.
came out as gay. Still great friends, up to her dying day. But imagine what my daughter has to go through in this therapy, and let me just walk you through my entire family history. And she just starts talking about everybody in there. By the end, she's like, so you can imagine the therapy sessions that my daughter will probably have to go through.
Oh man,
It's just like, oh my God. But she is very self-deprecating in
how
that.
did we even
But
end up on Carrie Fisher, by the way?
I
Oh,
I don't
because Paul Simon. We were
Paul
talking
Simon,
about
yes.
Fleetwood, and then I was like, why are we? Was she on my list? How the fuck?
I don't think so. Okay. All right. Moving to, I guess, number two.
You're up. Wait, you
Uh,
did? Yeah, we both did three. Stevie, yes, you're up for number two. We're getting. Yes, number two.
I know that, and this is not because of her passing, but Tina Turner
Mm.
was very, very influential. And I
What's love
remember,
got to do?
we all grew up with, Tina Turner's 60s and 70s songs and everything. But in the 80s,
Yeah.
when she made her big comeback,
Well, that's the
you
stuff
know,
I no. That was my Tina Turner was huge in my childhood. It was all her 80s stuff. I didn't even know her old stuff. Yeah.
yeah. And the thing was, we thought this one was just like fantastic, her spiky hair wig, her legs, all about her legs. She had fantastic legs. And then, Mad Max comes along and she's got that chainmail dress and everything. And people are just like, man, she is just awesome and awesome and awesome.
Yeah.
And then the movie, What's Love Got to Do with It, comes out. Angela Bassett, Larry Fishburne. And
Mm-hmm.
we went to watch that, my sister and I, and we came out of there sobbing,
Oh,
okay, because we had no idea. We didn't have any idea
yeah.
of what Tina Turner had gone through. This woman, literally, when she divorced Ike, gave him everything. She signed away everything, every penny, everything, just to get rid of
Just to
him.
get the hell out of there. Yeah.
And she said, from now on, everything that I do is for me. You no longer exist.
Yeah.
We are done. She literally gave up everything in order to be free. And that, to me, shows a strength of character that very few people have.
Mm-hmm.
And she used that to help other people. And she became big again.
Self-belief.
And
Yeah.
and it's amazing. A lot of people don't know this. She passed away a few days
Yeah,
ago,
just the
but
other day. Yeah.
she married a man who was Swiss, and she gave up U.S. citizenship and became a Swiss citizen. A lot of people didn't know that because she had just become an invalid and sequestered herself and wanted to just shut away from the world. And I don't blame her.
No.
After everything that she had been through, and then to find out that, her health, she had so many health issues, and everything, and she was declining so rapidly. I'd want to, shut out the world too. I wouldn't want the world intruding on me if I were, again, battling something that I couldn't win. The first time was bad enough, and it was public, and it had a degree of shame because and I've seen this with abused women and abused men in domestic violence, where they feel ashamed,
Yeah.
you know.
For sure.
And she did that, and she had it in public. It was shown to everyone. She didn't want that, and I think that's one of the reasons why she's just sequestered herself until she was pretty much done living.
Yeah.
What she did for music back in the 80s, she actually made sure that people understood that you can start from ground zero and become so great
Yeah.
that everything else can be overshadowed, that your past is no longer, it can't touch you. And she was a trailblazer in that respect, but she also, a lot of people that I would, because I used to volunteer in a crisis center, were very
Inspired.
moved by what she did, and they wanted to follow in those footsteps, not necessarily be singers,
No, of course.
you know, but at least, I can do this. If she can do it from nothing, I certainly can get a job in retail from nothing, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. And it did. It helped a lot of people.
Yeah, inspiration really is the strongest tool.
It is. It is. And
Seeing
she,
people do something that you didn't think you could do, you go, oh, well, they just did it. I saw them do it. I saw how they did it. I try to make this distinction all the time because it is such a fine line of, and we talked in the beginning, you overextending yourself. You can't really help people. People have to help themselves when it
mhm.
comes to actually like growing and about fixing an issue, but you can inspire them to do it. And there
Yes.
is a fine distinction there. You can't do it for them, but if they see you doing it, or if you point to other people, that to me is like some of the most powerful stuff. Like, oh, you gotta do it internally. It's like, yeah, you have to do it internally, but you're still supposed to draw inspiration from other people. It seems like.
And when she started coming out in the 80s, and she became a sex symbol again,
Yeah, I didn't
and
even
at her
know.
age, that was like, what?
If you would have asked me if I knew she even sang in the 60s or 70s, I would have had no idea. I'd be like, she's just some 80s star. That's how limited my childhood
Well,
purview was.
it's funny because you've seen Miss Congeniality, right? The
Yeah, of
first,
course.
did you see the second one?
Maybe parts of it. I
Okay.
for
Well,
sure never sat down and paid
there's
attention.
there's a part where they're at this drag cabaret, and Regina King is dressed as Tina Turner.
Okay.
Okay. And she has to pretend to be, a drag queen pretending to be Tina Turner, out there and performing. And so I'm watching the performance and the way that because they didn't have any time to choreograph anything, but they're doing this dance, and I'm going, okay, that's just silly. They didn't have time to choreograph any of this or whatever. So fast forward a couple of years, I'm watching classics on the Ed Sullivan Show, and there's Tina Turner. She's doing that dance. That's why they did that dance, because they all knew that Tina Turner had done that dance with Proud Mary.
Oh, I got
Okay.
you.
So when Tina Turner was doing Proud Mary, she was doing that dance, and that's why they did that dance when she
That's
when she was
funny.
pretending to be, Tina Turner. So
Wow.
it's I mean, it's
That's
little
layered.
things like that that
Yeah.
if you don't know
Yeah.
what Tina Turner had done before the 80s, it's not going to hit you. But that
Yeah.
was something that skipped a lot of people, because most of the people that were watching that had not seen
No, they didn't
the
get
Ed
the
Sullivan
reference.
Show. They weren't even born then. So they didn't
That's
know.
funny. I like Easter eggs like that. Stuff
Yeah,
that
that was a good Easter egg that I did not, even I
yeah.
didn't see, but it had bugged me because I kept thinking, why are they so well choreographed when they didn't have any time to come up with, they didn't even know what song they were singing.
Yeah.
So then when I'm watching that, I was going, that's why.
Well, I was recently watching. I think I mentioned this on one of the pods. I listen. If I repeat myself with the same stories 100 times, forgive me. I was watching this show Suits not long ago,
Mhm.
and the characters had an inside joke with each other. The main kid and the Duchess of whatever the fuck. What's her name? What's her name?
Meghan Markle.
Yes, the Meghan Markle character and the main kid. They had an inside joke in the show where they I'm sorry, forget, it wasn't even Meghan Markle, which makes it worse. I couldn't forget it. It was the blonde girl. Forget who the actress
Okay.
is. The blonde girl. They would go she to each other, right? Now I used to do that, and I still do sometimes. I'd be like she, you drag it out.
Drag it out.
But the person that started that kind of is the guy from the show The Wire. I don't know if you ever watched The Wire.
Yes.
It was a huge
Yes.
hit, and he would say shit, and it
Yes.
became a thing. Okay, he's in Suits, and he plays Meghan Markle's dad. So it's not a coincidence that they're doing that as a joke in the show, but I was thinking to myself, they were
So that's
probably
why.
doing that on set, as a goof to him.
Mhm.
And they're like, just put it in the show. Because they're walking up to this guy on set going, shit, and they're like,
Well, Yeah, that's
Because
how
the fact it ended up in the show, I'm like, he's in the show. He was the guy in The Wire 20 years earlier. You know that's what it's
right.
from.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I like when something like that happens by mistake. You remember Psych, right?
The show.
The show,
I never
Psych.
really watched it, but I remember it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, every single episode had a pineapple somewhere.
Okay.
There was always a pineapple. And we didn't know why there was always a pineapple. There was always a pineapple somewhere in every episode.
Right.
Well, it turns out that during filming, I think it was the pilot or the second episode, he walked in with a pineapple and left it on the counter.
So it just became
And then
a
they
thing.
moved it when they filmed the other one. They put it somewhere else, and the pineapple was there again. So it became that was the Easter egg you were looking for in every episode. It was so distracting because I had to watch every episode twice
to find the pineapple.
So
No, I always create these behind the scenes stories of, oh, this person must have brought this person in as an actor because they were in this other thing 8 years ago. Like I always picture the behind the scenes.
Right,
but I think a lot of that's there's a new show called Succession, which you probably haven't seen. It's a really good show, and Kieran Culkin is in it. He's Macaulay's little brother.
Yeah.
And on the show, his character and this much older woman have this like kind of inappropriate sexting type thing they do, and he's always like he sends her like dick pics and stuff. And I saw him in an interview recently, and he said this was not in the show, that he flirts with her so much off camera, like that they have this funny banter even though she's 25 years older than him, that they went, this is like such a fun dynamic, like let's put it in the show that you guys kind of are like this. So they did. And I was like, it's because it works and it feels natural. And I was like, it's really, because it's one of the funnier parts of the show. And I go, it's funny that they didn't even write it in. It just became that way because of the real chemistry.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
All right. Keeping the list going. What are we up to? Number two? My number two? All right. These are getting obvious now. Number two, Mariah Carey. Also, again, because we're kind of doing our eras, and this is what I grew up on, right? Anything that came out when I was middle school, anywhere around that area is always just going to hit me hard. And she just had the sweetest, or something so... I've had the debate a lot, like who's the best vocalist. She could hit those notes that like almost nobody in history could hit, but she had such like a whispery, raspy sweetness. And then she could also do all those fun R&B songs, and she was doing collaborations with Boyz II Men and rappers and stuff. And again, here's when you know a true icon, right? Because I had this debate with someone. I was like, there are no more Mariahs and Whitneys in them. They don't exist today. And what I mean by that is, you could say Taylor Swift's the biggest star in the world. As far as like who's the biggest female artist right now, if you just went off record sales, right? It's Taylor or whoever.
Yeah.
Right? Half the population couldn't name a Taylor song or sing a Taylor song, right?
The sad tragic part is I could
sing 5 or 10 of her songs easily.
I don't even like her music.
I'm a fan of hers. I'm not knocking her at all. My point in saying it is, even the most famous people aren't as ubiquitous as they used to be. You can't be, because there's too much selection. It's just like how everyone saw the finale of a show back in 1984. Now, there's 10 trillion channels and 10 trillion apps, and if there's a finale, 1 out of 10 people's watching it, not 8 out of 10. But to be able to say someone's first name and everyone knows who it is. You say Mariah, everyone in the country knows who you're talking about. You can't do that with Taylor. You go Taylor, they'll go Taylor who? Taylor Lautner? Maybe. Plus, not a lot of people are named Mariah. But to me, just as legendary as it gets. And she was like really cute and pretty back then. Everyone kind of had a little crush on her. And listen, still to this day, I'll listen to some Mariah Carey stuff. I have her on my playlist.
I do too. And I mean, her vocal range is fantastic. I think she was opera trained. Wasn't she?
She wore it out quick, I think, because she was hitting that stuff so hard.
Yeah, unfortunately. But her vocal range was amazing. And she had that sweet next door.
Yeah.
Girl next door quality.
She had a little underbite, kind of a lisp when she talked. Yeah, she had a very sweet, girlish.
Yeah, she did. So I can totally see. And yeah, you're right. She was also a trailblazer. Her style was completely different. And her collaborations with almost everybody in every genre.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I think her first album came out, I was probably around like 10. So it was, right in the wheelhouse of you think how
Stop
old?
it,
No,
my
but it was like
gray.
right in the wheelhouse of that stuff, that age. Anything you first hear that's new.
Yeah, that's a good one.
All
No,
right, all
Mariah
right,
Carey
thank you.
was really, really very
Yeah,
cool.
legend.
Still putting stuff out too.
It's
So,
iconic as it gets. But yeah,
mhm.
it's hard when you sing for a certain style because you can't. Like I went to a Billy Joel concert a while ago. He can still sing all of his songs pretty damn well at 80
Yes.
years old or whatever he is,
Hmm.
70 whatever. Mariah's can't do that at 70 something because you just can't. What are you gonna
No,
sing?
there's a limit.
It's
There's a limit
tough.
to
Yeah.
it.
If she
So
hasn't sounded like Mariah in a while, I'm not
no,
knocking her. I'm not
I
knocking
think
her.
that she needs to rebrand her voice, maybe lower the pitch
Yeah,
a
you
few
can't.
and everything, and go from there.
I don't think people mind when it's like some rock singer just kind of shredding notes he used to hit either. But
Yeah.
yeah, when you're like a vocalist and it's you and the mic and maybe a piano, that's tough. All right, number one, drum
My number
roll.
one is actually going to surprise some people,
Okay.
but it shouldn't,
All right.
especially in view of the fact of what's coming out soon, and that would be Dolly Parton.
Oh wow, that's a really
Hmm.
great pick. I didn't even think about her with my list.
Yeah. And the thing was, it's like I'm not a big country music fan, but I love the old country music, the true country music, the bluegrass,
Yeah,
the George Jones, George Strait, the
he's still
Randy
touring.
Travis. Oh, don't get me started with George Strait because he had a farewell tour,
He just
and and his last thing was supposed to be here in Dallas, and what happens? No, he's now touring again. I'm like,
no,
don't
I know
don't.
someone that just saw him a few months ago. Yeah,
I was so mad. I was like, I know people that paid $1,000 a ticket to
yeah.
go
Don't do
see
a
you because
fake
it was your
farewell tour.
last
It's like these
one.
athletes who pretend to retire and then they're
Hmm.
just coming back. Yeah, they get this whole fanfare and it's like, yeah, no, I'm gonna come
Yeah,
back and play another year. It's you asshole. We just gave you a parade. Yeah,
right. But Dolly was, for me, a big part of growing up back in the 80s because her music, a lot of people were doing covers, in the pop and the
yes,
rock of her country
yeah,
songs.
yeah,
As a matter of fact, Whitney Houston actually did one for, The Bodyguard.
mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, and which
I Will
became
Always Love You.
which
That's a
became her
Dolly
biggest,
Parton
of
song.
course, and it's Whitney's biggest hit. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like she was in everything. It didn't matter what it was. She got picked to do 9 to 5. Her career as an actress was actually pretty good too
Hmm. No,
because
she
she was
was a good
having fun
actress.
with it.
She was a good
Uh,
actress.
but one of the things that I've always loved about her music is that every song has a story. Every song is a story. Every single song has a background. It tells a story. You
It's
can
interesting.
interpret it in different ways. Yes,
Yeah.
that's true. Her collaborations with a lot of people in the music business just are legendary. And this year, I think they told her they wanted to induct her into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and she's like, I've never done a rock and roll album,
Right,
so
right.
she's putting one out.
Wow.
And I'm like, this woman, there is nothing that
They have gotten loose with the Hall of Fame rules, though.
they have, and she actually turned it down, but they begged her, please let us induct you, and
Yeah,
she's like, okay, I fine, but I have to put out a rock and roll
I
record
like it.
in order to justify my induction into this thing, And so it's coming out. It's called Rockstar, and I mean, I'm looking at all the tracks, and I'm like, I cannot wait. I cannot wait for this
See, I had no
to
idea
drop.
she's still making the music. That's crazy.
She's still making music, and one of the things that I mean, this woman is so giving. She
Yeah.
established that
Dollywood and all that is a
the
huge.
charity whereby you sign up and your child gets a book a month until the age of 5. So by the time they start reading, they have an entire library to
Smart.
read from. She is really big in literacy
Yeah.
because when she was growing up, it took her a long time to learn to read because there were like 14 kids in her family or whatever. Nobody had the time to teach her. And she was in a very, very poor part of Appalachia. And there were, going to school was just tremendous. You may not be able to go to
Yeah.
school because it's either too far away or you were needed to, work in the field or, for whatever reason. So she wanted kids to actually start their reading journey. She's still doing this to this day.
Yeah.
Dollywood
Yeah.
has its own charitable foundation
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
trust. She's a very giving person. She gives back, and it is all grounded in her faith. Everything she does is grounded in her faith. And this is a woman, I know what her politics are. She's never hidden her
Right.
politics, but she loves everybody. And she says that politics doesn't enter into loving people
Yeah,
for
well,
who they are.
and there's a I don't want to heart. There's a way to go about it. There's a way
Yes.
to, if you want to let your views be known, there's a way to do it without making people feel like you're insulting or being condescending or criticizing them
No, she's,
or excluding them.
they interview her, it's like, why aren't you more political? And she's like, why should I be?
Well, like you said, she
Politics are
loves
not
everyone.
important.
I said earlier, and I deleted because it sounded like some hippy dippy bullshit, but it's true. I said, if you're for peace and love, just for people that you agree with, then you're not for peace and love. People can preach that shit all they want, but the minute it's so like second thing you said about her, you said she loves she makes it apparent that, even though I feel this way in my own life, I actually love everybody. And people don't get that.
When Rush Limbaugh got married, his wife, the only thing that she wanted was for Elton John to perform at the ceremony.
Right.
And Rush got in touch with his publicist.
They
worked it out to where Elton would be performing.
Yeah.
And Elton got excoriated for that. They went after him like you would not believe. And Elton John was like, whoa, 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 whoa. This isn't about politics. This is about music.
Yeah.
This is about the message in music. And that transcends everything. It's the same reason why he doesn't boycott going to Israel. And he cannot understand why musicians do that all the time. They're like, you're basically telling people that they're not good enough to hear what you have to say when you boycott them.
No, he was always Elton is a good sport like that. Even with he and Axl, he played accompanying piano for Axl Rose on November Rain. I think it was at like the 91 Video Music Awards or something.
Something like that, yeah.
And they also performed together at the Queen tribute. They did the Bohemian Rhapsody. But the point is that November Rain duet, if you want to call it that, came about because Axl had just gotten a lot of shit for supposedly being like homophobic and saying controversial stuff. He had a song called One in a Million. In fact, if you even look at the cover of that album and the stuff it says still to this day on the album cover, it's like, have you ever, I don't even want to repeat, it's gonna, I'll get taken off. It's very I don't like using the word homophobic because it implies it's very anti-gay, anti-immigrant. The song is anti-everything. He's bashing cops, but then he's also bashing immigrants, and he's also bashing gay people, and it's a hardcore song, and it's sung in a love song kind of way. It's very strange. But so my point is, he got a lot of shit for that, and he and Elton's like, yeah, man, like let's show people that that's not who you are, because I know you're not that guy. I'm gonna come out there on stage with you as an openly gay guy, and we're gonna do this thing together. And yeah, he's like that, Elton, for sure. He's like, I don't care that he's talk shit about gays. I'm his friend. Let's go perform together.
I find that it's funny that they went after Axl Rose for that particular song, but they don't go after Green Day for American Idiot.
Well, and Axl's super left now. He was like,
yes, he is.
He was like an Indiana boy with some tough views for sure back then. Guys changed a lot. Yeah, I don't know how that song has not actually been canceled. It's the one song I always think about where I'm like, that song's really worse than almost everything people complain about, and it shouldn't be canceled, but
it's probably not canceled because people don't know about it.
People don't
it came
know.
Out,
anyone listening, throw on Guns N' Roses, One in a Million. Okay.
So what's your number one?
Axl Rose. No. Number one on the we already alluded to her. It's such an on the nose pick. I just had to be honest. Here's the thing. Whitney Houston, number one. To me, and again, as an 80s child, it doesn't get more iconic than that. You say Whitney, everyone knows, and also makes you rest in peace. But you say Whitney, Everyone knows who the fuck you're
Everybody
talking
knows
about.
who Whitney is. Yes.
Just that voice. She must have come out, what, like 85, mid 80s, whatever it was.
It
Was
was
just,
I want to say my sophomore year, which was 83.
oh, wow.
When she started doing, yeah. Ooh, I
I'm
want to
just,
dance with somebody.
yeah, no one had more legendary hits. And I know that one is Dolly's, fine, but still she made it the hit. And
But this is it's a good example of a cover that gets co-opted
yeah,
better by the person covering it than the original, and even Dolly Parton said that that's her song now. Just like Nine Inch Nails and Hurt.
yeah.
And when Johnny Cash covered it, Nine Inch Nails said that's no longer our song.
I still prefer the 9-inch version.
I do not.
Even though Trent's another prick. There's a piano acoustic Trent Reznor version that it's just, it's like, it's hard to listen. That's a hard song to listen to. That's a dark song.
It is.
I love covers. I love unique covers. I like when someone takes a song and totally changes the arrangement and makes it different and all that. I went through a tweet flurry of like cheesy pop songs that people have turned into really good songs. Like that Call Me Maybe song is the cheesiest of, but this guy Ben Howard covered it. He turned it into, violins and guitars and a whole orchestra. People are very creative.
Yeah.
And guys are more willing to cover women's songs nowadays too, which I like, because it opens up. Because a lot of these songs are not gender specific, and they'll change the pronoun anyway. If she's saying him, he'll switch it to her, and it becomes
nowadays
a whole
you don't even
different
have
song.
to do that.
But yes, Whitney, as legendary as it gets, and to me, the best voice I think we've ever had. If you just went pure voice, just pure range and tone and mixture, and again, she shredded it soon. She shredded it early.
Mm-hmm.
God rest her soul.
She was 48.
Right, and she probably couldn't hit those notes for 15 years before she passed. But in her prime, no, I never heard anyone with that. Her and Mariah both, I think, had the best voices in their primes that I've ever heard.
When she performed the national anthem at the Super Bowl, the people kept applauding. They had to postpone the next thing that was on the schedule, because they would not stop. And that was actually released on video cassette format for sale. And we received 10 copies.
Wow.
And the price point was $9.99, just $10. And all it was the clip of her singing the national anthem at the Super Bowl. That's all it was.
Yeah.
And if you recall, she just wore a tracksuit.
Mm-hmm.
Red, white,
I do
and blue
remember that
tracksuit.
She had the little bob going, right? Didn't she have the bob haircut?
And she looked really cute and everything. That video, I put it out, and we were instructed to put it in the front of the cash register. That's where the new releases for the music videos were. I put it out that morning. We opened at 10. By 10:15, all 10 copies were sold. And I called my district manager and I said, I'm sold out. I don't know what to do. Oh, just put another video there and blah, 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 and all that stuff. I kept getting people coming in all day long asking for that damn video. I had to direct them over to Musicland. I told them to go to Sam Goody. I told them to go. And they all kept telling me the same thing. I went there. They're all sold out. They're all sold out. They're all sold out. So I had my district manager call the regional, tell them, you need to ship more. They did not expect that video to sell so well. Because normally video cassettes of a single song, they didn't sell that well. Mm-mm. Unless it was Madonna's Justify.
Or We Are the World.
Or We Are the World. But everybody wanted that video of Whitney singing the national anthem. And I was just like, how am I going to keep it on the shelves? And Musicland group actually requested a larger amount. And like that following Thursday, we had an emergency delivery. And I had 2 boxes of 100 each. They lasted 3 days. Well, 3 days. I could not believe it.
We'll never have that again.
No, it was just
that level of everyone knowing and being into something, and that level of fame and icon. It's better now because we have so much more variety, but it's just diluted to.
That's the word. Yeah. It's diluted. Yeah. You're right. It is
Well, because
diluted.
even still, Whitney's been dead how long? When did she pass away?
I want to say it was about, let's say about 13,
All right,
13 years.
so still to this day, if you just took 100 random people off the street and said, name a Whitney Houston song, or sing a line to a Whitney Houston song, or point Whitney Houston out in the lineup, 90 out of 100, I think, would give you something. But
Yeah.
you couldn't do that with any current artist. If you just took 100 random people off the street, you name her, Katy Perry, Taylor Swift, Lana Del Rey, whoever, go name a song. They'll go, I don't know. Like people who are fans, but it's just, the whole country doesn't just know. Like everyone knew a Michael Jackson song, right? There was a
Right.
certain level of ubiquitousness, if that's a word, where everyone just knew it.
I don't know if it's dilution or saturation.
Both. What's the
Okay.
right word? Diluted or saturated? It's both. It's been saturated so much to the point where it's now diluted.
Okay. Yeah, we can
That
do
makes
that.
no. Don't check me on that semantically.
No,
You know
but
what it is?
it's
The
true.
market has been saturated and the experience has been diluted. How about that? They've saturated it so much that the experience is diluted. It's not meaningful. I don't get to go to the store and I'm waiting for that new CD to come out. I get to grab a copy and I'm waiting. It's like, it's this
If
exciting. That's like, yeah, here. Oh, new shit just came out. Here, press a button. I just download it. Like, yeah, it's great. It's
it's
convenient. It's
instant, the
amazing.
instant gratification has actually been
Diluted.
detrimental. Yeah, it really has. There was a certain, I don't know, the anticipatory
Yeah.
release that you were when you were waiting for something to happen. I mean, I remember when, TV shows, when the series, the cliffhanger, and you had to wait an entire 6 months before the new episode came out. There
No,
was no TiVo, there was
it
no
felt meaningful.
DVR.
Even something simple like now I'll flip through an app, find a
Uh-huh.
movie I want. I'll watch it for 2 seconds. If I don't feel it, I'll turn it off. I'll find another one. Even if I hate it, like if I went through the process of going to the store, finding something in the aisle, picking it, renting it, even if it sucked, like I was gonna sit through and watch that thing because it was part of this experience. Now it's all throwaway. It doesn't have the value anymore. I'll give you
No,
5 minutes. You
doesn't.
don't get my attention. Boom, I'm on to the next thing. I forgot about you.
And a lot of people are like that because we have a society that has become used to instant gratification because things are, they're very fast. I mean, I remember when, the first PCs came out and you had to dial up, you had to connect with another modem and it
Yeah.
took a while. But still, you were like, oh, I'll be talking to somebody clear across the world. This is amazing. Now you have a phone, you can do it on, real quick. And the bitch of it is, if they don't read your text real quick, you're like, what are they doing?
Yeah, exactly.
Seriously,
You still get agitated. Like
you
I'm
get
like, oh
upset.
shit, my service dropped out for 2 seconds. I can't. It's like we get so used to it that
And I'm
any
very
little
guilty of
hiccup.
that.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, I don't mind sending a text to somebody and them not reading it for 8 hours. But if they send me something and I haven't read it in 5 minutes, I feel guilty.
I feel it's so funny because I couldn't agree with you more, and I feel it on Twitter too. If someone said, and I'm not like the most with people like with family, I guess I'm not the most, but yes, anytime someone says something to me, I have a guilt. I have to read it now. I have to reply to them in a thoughtful way, acknowledging what, yeah, but other people seem to not feel that
No,
sense
no,
of
there's some people that
responsibility.
really, and like I said, I do not get upset when people don't read my stuff right away. As a matter of fact, one of my girlfriends, I sent her a text the other day. What did I say? I sent Eileen a text, and they have a Samsung like I do, so I can tell when it's read or not. It just said
Interesting.
delivered. There was still no answer 3 days later. And then she finally, reached back to me and I was like, oh, yeah, no problem, blah, 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 and all that stuff and over with. I didn't think anything of it. I was fine with her waiting for 3 days to get back to me. It was okay.
Oh,
But when somebody sends me a text or a message of any kind and I have not responded within 5 minutes, I feel extremely guilty.
yeah.
Unless, obviously if I'm doing something like, recording a
Yeah.
podcast or something like that, then I can tell them, I'm sorry, I was busy, I was doing this or whatever. And it's the same thing with my sisters and my brother,
Yeah.
so
No, I
I'll,
feel the same way. And I think a lot of us who've gone half our lives without this tech and now half with it, I think that's when it starts. Like we're all still trying to figure it out and how to properly integrate it.
yeah, I do
Because
agree.
this is like, because the example you just gave of, oh, when I get a text, I feel there was no such thing as a text till a minute
No,
ago. So like we're basing all this calculation on something that never even existed before. If someone wanted to reach you before they call you, and if you weren't home, you couldn't answer. And they knew, well, she won't know I called till she comes home in 8 hours and listens to the answering machine.
if you have an answering
Right.
machine.
So it's like, right. So it's like, what's even the etiquette? We're all just figuring this stuff out. There's a comedy bit about how the phone is just an app on the phone that never gets used. Right.
It's
In other
true.
words, the fact that we even still call this a phone is stupid. It's a computer. It's, yeah. But he goes basically like the phone's just an app and I never use that app. It's not even, because who calls people?
I call.
Do you leave
I do.
messages? Would you leave a voicemail still? If someone doesn't pick up, you'll leave them a voicemail?
Yes,
Half
I
the people
will.
I
And
know,
I
you
have.
can't even leave them because their shit's full because they don't listen. And everyone else expects that their missed call counts as a
Hmm.
voicemail. That seems to be the prevailing etiquette among young people. If I call you, you should see my missed call, and that's same as me leaving a message that call me back or whatever.
I don't get. I really don't. Because if you really want to reach me and you can't get my voicemail, you can always leave a text. And I know you can.
Well,
So a
the
missed
missed
call
call
doesn't
log is the
necessarily.
same as a text. It's all about, like you said, it's the quick attention span. No one has
Yeah.
time to stop and explain themselves. It's like boom, 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 catch on or get lost.
It just drives me crazy. They'll call, and I'll see it's a missed call from, I don't know, one of my sisters, right? And I will not call back because I figured, well, she
If it
didn't
was
leave a
that important,
voicemail.
she would have left a message, right?
Yeah, or she didn't text me. Now, my sister, the one that lives near me, about an hour from me, she actually called the other day and I could not get to my phone. So she then sent a text so that I could see it because she knew that cell reception here is kind of spotty. So I may not get the voicemail for like an hour
Yeah.
or whatever. So she sent a text just to cover. So that was fine. The other sister, the one that used to live next door to me, she'll call and she won't leave a message. I mean, seriously, and my voicemail is never full.
Right.
I delete everything. So she could leave a voicemail, but she chooses to just hang up.
Yeah.
She doesn't leave anything and then gets upset at me for not returning the phone
No,
call.
that's my
Well, how the
point. No, but Aggie, that's what you're supposed to do. Nobody leaves me voice. Nobody ever leaves me voicemail. The missed
I'm gonna
call,
call you and I'm gonna leave a voicemail
telling
just so
you,
that
if my sister or someone calls, she would never dream of leaving me a voicemail. Is she? No, nobody does. It's the log itself, or like you said, they'll call if you don't answer. Then they'll text, "Hey, I had something important to tell you," whatever. Like if it's really important. Here's my mom's funny because she won't call. She texts you to call her. It's like, just call me. You're giving me all this extra work. I get texts that say, call my house. Like she tells me which line to call. Call my house real quick. Why am I calling your house? Just call my phone from your house. I think she thinks because like she's annoying or I'm busy or whatever, but it's worse.
I have gotten
And she
messages
prefers the
like that.
landline. It's call my house line because she doesn't want to talk on the cell. So she'll text from the cell to call her house phone. Sorry, go ahead.
No, my mom's the same way. My mom actually goes a step further. She'll use the house phone. She calls me and says, "Give me a call back," and then hangs up. And I'm like, "You literally had me on the you had me on the phone."
Right. We
So
used
then
to
I'll
do that.
call. Well, and I think it's residual from when it used to
Yes,
be
long
expensive to
distance.
call
Yes, yes,
a
yes.
mobile, right?
We used to, well, even when we would call our dad long distance when our parents were divorced, we go, can we call? Mom would go, yeah, call him and tell him to call you back. So he would get the bill, not her. We literally
Yeah.
would call our dad and be like, hey, dad, call me back. So she gets charged for 2 seconds and then he gets hit with the hour. Right.
She still does that. And I'm like, "Mom, you don't have to. Seriously, you don't have to
Yeah.
do that anymore.
It's
And I said, and
unlimited.
if you have a doubt, just call me on your cell phone, and it's
Yeah.
okay. She was like, I know what I'm doing. And I'm like, okay, you're right. You know what you're doing. I'm just going to leave it there and just do it her way.
I had a debate with someone recently that was trying to tell me that they still do press the 1 before the area code from their cell phone. And they're like, you
Yeah.
have to. And I go, no, you fucking don't. You haven't
You
had
know,
to hit the 1 in like 20 years. You just do the area code and number. They're like, well, I always do the 1. I'm like, is it like it's programmed in that way? But yeah, people are still operating like it's the 80s and that we're paying for long distance and
I
we have
will
to press.
raise my hand and say that I do the 1. I know that
From a
you don't
landline,
have
you
to.
might have to. I'm not sure.
Landline you do.
I haven't
Landline you
used a
do.
landline, full disclosure, in decades, but I can promise you from a cell phone, you don't need a 1.
I still have a landline simply because my cell phone here,
Yeah.
it's very spotty where I live. And I know that you don't have to do it on the cell phone,
Yeah.
but out of habit, I do it on the cell phone because
Yeah.
I still do it, on the landline. And being 56, that's the way
Yeah.
we
If
did it.
she would have told me it was habit and that, I would have said fine. But her assertion was you have to, that it won't work
No,
if you don't.
it's habit.
It's a very
total
frustrating
habit.
argument.
It's total habit.
Aggie, not only are you the first reappearance, isn't me record for longest app by
Oh,
far. I don't know.
oh my God.
It's groundbreaking in 2 ways. We got first repeat guests and we got longest. It only says I feel like we could have just kept on
I'm
going.
the Maud Adams of your James Bond franchise. I'm
Yes.
digging that whole thing.
Perfect.
Although she dies in one of them.
That's great comedic recall to bring back stuff we talked about earlier. Thank you.
That's how I'm going to tag this when you release it. And I'm going to tag it. I'm the Maud Adams to his James Bond.
I'm going to put that in the caption. Aggie, a.k.a. Maud. And now I get the Aggie reference. Speaking of, guys, please check her out on Twitter at Aggie Rican and KLRNradio.com. Those shows are all live and they are really fun to listen to. And they have a chat room on there so you can interact. And it's a lot of fun, goofy, vulgar humor.
Yeah.
And
we do have a disclaimer.
and if you go to the website, even if you miss them live, you can click on the different shows that are on there and you can listen to the replays of those. And they're on Spotify as well, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So check those out. And Aggie, thank you. You'll be my repeat again whenever you want.
Yay! I'll be a three-peat like Michael Jordan when he won with the Chicago Bulls.
Another great recall. That's what we do. We bring stuff up in the beginning and wrap it back around.
Oh, we do. We're good at that.
Thank you, really. And thank you guys for tuning in. I hope everybody has a nice Memorial Day week by the time you hear this. And I'm going to be back in a few days with another episode for you guys. And I got some more guests coming up as well. So please keep an eye out. Thank you all so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you again, Aggie.
Thanks for having me. It was great.
It was my pleasure, as always. Thank you, guys. See y'all soon. Be good.